everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. Thank you for joining me and taking a look at my channel. I appreciate it very much. Those of you guys who are subscribers and members, thank you for your support. And those of you guys who are new to my channel, do not forget to hit the subscribe button below so you're alerted as to when I'm coming out with new videos. Very excited to be back today and talking to you guys about a transit that is already starting to heat up. And it's just, I'll get into like my crazy astro connections in just a second, but let me just say that it was very timely to do this video today and leave it at that. Those of you guys who are not aware, I am a Western and evolutionary astrologer. I'm a practicing clairvoyant, and I also work with tarot, so I'm a little bit of a triple threat, right? And I like to create videos during the week talking to you guys about really important transits or going deeper in some of like the philosophy of the connections to the planets and how they're playing out for me and how I can better help you guys and give you some insightful information on what's going on in the cosmos. So as you guys are aware, you saw the title of the video. I want to talk to you all about the Jupiter Neptune in Pisces conjunction that is setting up here pretty soon. I'm already starting to feel the energies. It's very interesting how I went about making this video, and I think that after trying to like restructure it, I kind of learned the lesson and realized that what I was experiencing very much is kind of tying into what everybody else is feeling and what I'm trying to teach. So I took a very different approach. My videos have a tendency to obviously be long and have a lot of information, and it can be very heady. And while I have lots of information for you guys today, I'm just going to let you know you're going to get the most out of this video, not by sitting there taking notes. Okay? So you can if you want, totally fine. You may come back to this and take notes if you want. You may listen to it bits and pieces as you guys are going about your day. I know lots of people like to listen to my videos when they're driving, or I do not have a podcast. Maybe I should, with as long as they have a tendency to be, but that's okay. Anyway, regardless of where you are and where you're listening to this, just know that a lot of this video, I really want to emphasize just listening and letting the information wash over you rather than feeling overwhelmed and spiraling out about some of the stuff that we discussed today or the long laundry list of things you have to do or get together. Neptune does not work that way. So I also realize and recognize that some people, I guess everybody's like on a different level or, you know, part of the astrology spectrum. Some of you guys are just finding my video because you heard about this conjunction and you're interested. Other people are practicing astrologers, healers, readers, magicians who are very aware of these energies and they just want to know more. Regardless, try to just listen and, like I said, let it wash over you, because I want this to be an enjoyable experience and lecture, not something that's super heady and not something that sends you guys for a spiral. Now, you guys know, if you've been watching me long enough, you know that I don't candy coat things. I'm really honest about stuff. And I'm very aware and sensitive to the fact that there are lots of people who right now are going through it emotionally because there's just some intense transits happening in the skies right now. Between the squares to the notes, we're facing the need to change and evolve and vibrationally level up. But also this conjunction makes us incredibly emotional, very sensitive, very receptive, and sometimes, if not aware of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction energies or just the moon in Pisces today in general, we can have a tendency to, you know, kind of spiral out and go to worst case scenario. So this is just me giving that warning, that heads up. That's like, hey, this conversation, parts of it hopefully are very insightful and inspirational. And the takeaway from this is that it's all happening for a grander reason and that we are learning a lesson and we're learning to let go. But I know that on a mental, emotional, psychological level, a lot of people aren't doing well. So if you are sensitive to this information, just a heads up that we will be talking about some stuff that can get a little heavy. But for the most part, I'd like to keep it pretty positive, if at all possible, you know? So we've got this conjunction that's setting up. I'm going to give you guys all of the dates. I apologize. I'm doing things a little different. You're going to see me looking back and forth between another screen, trying to move it and get it closer if at all possible without moving my frame. Okay. But I'm reading off a laundry list of just like notes and things that I put together just to better help you guys understand what this transit is about, the archetypes of Jupiter and Neptune, what a conjunction is, what it feels like, some of the cycles in time. And then I've pulled a number of books and other things that I want to share with you guys that are just going to be more so resources. So this whole lecture is a combination of stuff that I've saved. A lot of it, actually, I'm going to read to you guys some stuff by Richard Tarnas. Maybe you guys are aware of who he is. He wrote the book Cosmo and Psyche. I'm also going to be pulling some insight from The Archetypal Universe by Ren Butler. I'll put these books on my Amazon link, so if you want to check this out, if you want to get any of these books, you can, but I'm going to give you guys the most important parts that are going to kind of fill out all the odd edges and things that I obviously have blind spots in. This is another book I've been reading recently in the midst of transit Uranus in opposition to my Pluto. It's called The Gods of Change, Pain, Crisis, and the Transits of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto by Howard Sesportes. So I'll be reading a little bit from this book for you guys. I know sometimes people are like, can you put the books? Can I get the name? Just click the Amazon link. You'll be able to see all of that. I will also be talking to you guys about the Sabian symbols because we're going to see two degree conjunctions. So we'll see the conjunction at 23 degrees and then 24. So I will be reading the Sabian symbols on that for you guys as well. And if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I'm going to be pulling cards for each and every one of the 12 signs. And I'm also going to talk about some intuitive channeled messages that come through in regards to how this energy is going to affect you. I want to keep it super intuitive, not too heady because it's Neptune, right? And I will be working today with the Star Child Tarot. I felt like it was very appropriate, very kind of whimsical, Piscean, all of these like really nice kind of Neptunian energies. So this is the deck that I will be reading with later. I'll also be giving some like herbal and crystal and like essential oil kind of remedies. I want this to be like the mother of all Jupiter, Neptune, Pisces videos. I just want to give you guys everything. So those of you guys who are doing timestamps for me, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You guys are the real MVPs and you make it possible for people to kind of go in and out of my content and get what they need and get on with their day. So thank you guys. I appreciate you very much. So I just want to give you guys some dates. So in a way, we're already feeling it and it's just, you know, kind of going back into me making this video. I felt like just energetically, everything's been difficult in terms of me not creating content, but being able to organize things and putting things together and doing it in a way that feels less robotic and more intuitive. That's like my MO for 2022. I'm working currently with Jupiter and Neptune in a trine to my natal Mercury Sun conjunction in Scorpio. So I have noticed that it's been more quality over quantity, and I'm like kind of at a point where I can't push myself to do something unless it feels right or unless it feels like it's got a lot of quality behind it, which in turn is making me actually really slow down and work more diligently to put more information, but also just how the messages and the recommendations are kind of coming through me intuitively when I do these videos, right? One thing that I am always big on in terms of talking to students and talking to my clients about metaphysics and spirituality is this. Sure, the tarot decks and the cards and all the stuff and the crystals and the herbs and the woo-woo stuff is amazing. It's great. But we hope to and aim to, in our spiritual practice, get to a point where we don't need all the bells and whistles. I would like to think that at least for myself, my goal is to be able to do the work that I do, holding on to a palm tree in the middle of a hurricane. I may not have my tarot deck, I may not have my crystals, I may not have my runes or even my star charts or anything like that. I aim to utilize these tools and understand them and integrate them into my practice. But first and foremost, my connection to source and spirit is the most important thing. So I'm trying to lean more into that and do work that's guided. And I got to tell you, the last couple of days, it's like, transits have been against me trying to get this video done. Something very interesting happened a couple hours ago when it was right when the moon was coming into conjunction with Neptune and Jupiter. Actually, when the moon was in between the two, it was like something went, okay, you can do it now, go ahead. And then I just sat in front of my computer, and then like an hour later, I had all of this stuff. And I was like, oh, that's what this feels like when I let it flow, right? When I become inspired and I pull all the things out that I know will correlate and relate to Neptune. When I sit there and am more aware of like letting it kind of come to me rather than reaching out into the ethers and trying to bring everything together frantically. That in itself is the energy of Neptune. Letting it flow in, being in a state of awareness and going in and out of like a dreamy state, an intuitive state. It's almost like, you know, when you wake up and you're half awake, half asleep, and you could roll over and go back to sleep, or you could wake up and maybe you start to remember a dream and then you doze off. That's Neptune. So one thing that I noticed is when these conjunctions started setting up today, it's that before I could get anything done, I had to actually feel inspired. Before I could get anything done, I had to have not a goal, but a vision for like, well, what is the takeaway from this video? How is it going to help people? How are they going to move away from this feeling more calm and confident? And also knowing that there are certain things that are either coming together or certain things that are dissolving for our ability to connect more intuitively, consciously, empathically, and be more kind of connected to the universe and more connected to each other. So with that being said, I'll give you guys some of the dates that I want to note. So the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces is the strongest from April 8th, 2022 through April 21st, 2022, okay? Now we're already feeling it now. We're within a couple degrees away. So some of you guys are going to start feeling this in oncoming days. Maybe you're feeling it because of the moon conjunction as I'm filming this. I don't know. But the first conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter are actually going to be made specifically at 23 degrees of Pisces. Okay, so when Jupiter and Neptune come into conjunction, it'll first be at 23 degrees of Pisces. Then both Jupiter and Neptune will move to 24 degrees together, and this will be happening from April 12th to April 15th. Okay? So it's interesting. We're going to look today at the energy of the 23rd degree. We're going to look at the energy of the 24th degree and how they differ or how they support one another. But the fact that those are moving at the same time tells me that there's something else kind of globally going on that's going to be kind of like affecting us. Later at the end of April, we will also see Venus come into conjunction with these two planets. So Venus in Pisces will come into conjunction with Neptune and Jupiter. If you guys saw my horoscopes or my April monthly ahead, you saw me talk about this and how it's like extra, extra sweet and like kind of like Disney fantasy romance land. I'm very much looking forward to the end of April. I know it's not even April yet, but looking forward to the end of April, knowing that this is going to be something that is almost like smoothing over or healing or giving us the ability to wave the white flag and bring more peace into our life after probably what's going to be a pretty chaotic month of April. So Venus will conjunct these two planets between April 26th and May 1st. And then May 15th through the 20th, we will see Mars is in a conjunction as well. Now, Jupiter will ingress into Aries, by then though. So we're going to see Jupiter move into Aries. I know I'm throwing a lot of different transits at you. I'm just letting you know that it's not just going to be the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. We're also going to see Venus come into the mix. And then later, we will also see Mars come into the mix. Mars will conjunct Neptune, but like I said, by then, Jupiter will be in Aries, and we'll actually see Jupiter go into Aries and then retrograde this year. Jupiter leaves Pisces on May 10th, so it will move into Aries on May 10th of 2022 and will not retrograde back into Pisces until October 29th. So from October 29th through December 19th of 2022, that's when we're going to see Jupiter back in Pisces, and it will be in the late degrees of Pisces. It will only be at 28, 29 degrees of Pisces. So even when Jupiter does retrograde back, he's going to be in the later degrees. I guess my point is that this conjunction is only going to happen at 23 and 24 degrees of Pisces, okay? Once Jupiter has, left Pisces on December 19th, it'll enter back into Aries, and it will stay in Aries for part of 2023. So I don't want to get you guys too confused with too many dates here, but just know that for the better part of April 8th through the 21st, you're going to be feeling this conjunction the strongest. And I think you're going to see the sweetness or the opening or the receptivity of some of these transits that are going to start shaping up really actually closer to the end of April. Hopefully that makes sense. So Pisces is a mutable water sign, and Pisces represents the 12th house in the zodiac traditionally. And Pisces is mutable, so it's changeable, it's fluid, it's flexible, and it represents the last sign of the zodiac. Now, traditionally, if you're into, medieval astrology or just traditional astrology in general, Jupiter is the lord of Pisces, so it rules Pisces. But modern day astrology, we look at Neptune. So any which way you slice it, Jupiter being in Pisces or Neptune being in Pisces, and then the two conjunct, is really mirroring and merging these two energies and belief systems together. And in my opinion, in a way, they're one and the same. Now, traditionally, Jupiter is very pleased and it's happy being in the sign of Sagittarius, where it can expand, roam, and be free. So we see that more in a fire energy. It's more external, it's creative, it's active, it's moving. But when it moves into Pisces, where it's very happy, some modern day astrologers would consider that's the exaltation, along with Cancer. But, Jupiter being in Pisces, it still has that ability to expand and roam, but in an emotional way, right? So it's going to be more in terms of feelings and receptivity. It's a feminine sign, so it's also going to be something that is going to be more felt, more received, more internal, rather than something that is going to be more kind of spicy and moving all over the place when it's in Sagittarius. Now, Pisces deals with collective energies, right? So the 12th house is where everything kind of comes together. It's like the cosmic washing machine where, everything's spinning together and spinning out and coming together or dissolving or, what have you, whatever is happening in that kind of Neptunian sphere. And Pisces rules over dreams, the unconscious, hidden, unseen, relating to the sea, our intuition, and where we release and let go of things in general, allowing things to dissolve or in some cases fade away if it's necessary. Jupiter archetypally is kind of seen as the sage, the wise one, the teacher, the philosopher, the guru, right? That's usually what we see when we're looking at Jupiter. But it can also represent our luck and our ability to luck into situations, good fortune, expansion in terms of knowledge, traditionally when it's in Sag. But in the sign of Pisces, it's going to be more of an emotional expansion because we're looking at it under the lens of Pisces. So from my perspective and how I like to teach my students is we want to look at the house to see where it's going to be playing out in your life. We want to look at the sign to see the lens in which it's going through, right? So when we take Jupiter, which is usually about expansion, knowledge, information, philosophy, travel, anything involving just the higher knowledge in our pursuit, when we put Pisces over that lens, it's what are we learning about our emotions? What are we learning about our feelings? What are we learning about things that we don't see? How are we expanding beyond our conscious realm? How are we going deeper into learning about sleep, afterlife, our deep subconscious mind, right? So we think about therapy, psychology, past life regression, hypnosis, all of these kind of Piscean type things. But what is Jupiter's purpose, right? Jupiter's purpose is the urge to give us meaning through a chosen philosophy or belief system, basically, in simple terms. The planet gives us the opportunity to broaden our awareness. So think of like travel, study, higher education, cultural expansion. So once again, putting this in the sign of Pisces is going to allow us to go further, to dissolve boundaries, to have no limits when it comes to our vision and our kind of Neptunian things. Now, Jupiter also represents the principle expansion and success, principle of success. And this governs the tendency to expand and grow and elevate or uplift, to seek that which is better or higher or improve or magnify, okay? So Jupiter has a tendency when it touches things to magnify things. It makes things bigger. So if it's coming into conjunction with another planet, it's going to magnify both of those themes. We also see that, you know, on the darker side of Jupiter, we can see issues revolving around excess, inflation, extravagance, you know, especially when it comes to wealth or status, indulgence, overconfidence, things like that. Traditionally, Jupiter was also associated with Zeus. So if we think of like Zeus's like personality and, you know, what he kind of brought in mythology of just larger than life, of what he wants and what he's going after, and in a way being extremely knowledgeable, but, you know, just being somebody who made everything bigger. That's at least how I kind of see him. We also know him as the king of the Olympian gods. So he was somebody who kind of reigned over all of the Olympians. He's known as the Great Benefic and is very much connected, like I said, to fortune, expansion, growth, success, and impulses. All right. So if we move on to Neptune and Neptune's archetype, Neptune is also known as Poseidon. He is the ruler of the sea, everything that is within water life, and everything connected to our dreams, our altered states of awareness, anything connected to visions and mirrors and smoke and crystal balls. It's all like very Neptune. And it's the archetype of being transcendent, of ideal reality, imagination, and spirituality. It represents the ocean of consciousness that dissolves all boundaries between the self and others, as well as the universe. Also between the self and God, and realities in general. Neptune has much to do with also like where we are feeling intuition, or where we are kind of getting inspiration. Neptune can be very inspirational in general. And it can be about our union with nature, or our union with God, or our union with our imagination, or possibly even illusions. Neptune governs the ideal world, right? So anything that pertains to our highest dreams or even our highest aspirations. On the opposite side of Neptune, though, we see the possibility for losing ourselves, deception, delusion, dishonesty, escapism, right? So that can be another way that Neptune kind of plays out. But for the most part, at least for me, I think it can also represent areas where we're experiencing nirvana and an extreme state of bliss and just transcending this particular world in general. I think of mysticism, enchantment, higher states of awareness, and higher states of consciousness. Now, the pros of Neptune definitely can help us soften the ego. It can dissolve issues that we've been holding on to for some time, issues pertaining to separateness, allow us to be more emotionally aware, practice more empathy, be selfless, and also forgive. So there are some positive sides to this. Now, on the other side, like I said, you know, I named some of the cons, I guess, or the lower vibrational octaves of Neptune. This would also be like, I think of like escapism, right? Escapism, addiction, mental health issues, spiraling out. Like that 12th house Neptune energy is a lot of like, oh, the world is too much. I don't want to get out of bed today. You know, I'm going to hit snooze and keep the blinds closed and maybe smoke a joint, or, you know, pop a pill and like lose myself in watching Netflix. So it does have this other side to it that's very well, how far do you want to go into the fog? How far or how deep do you want to go into the ocean? And what can you find there that can almost be these magical, mystical, experiences, but where can it also be that you go too deep and it becomes dangerous and you get lost? So I also think of just like astral traveling, anything in relation to like shamanic practices and going in and out of the ethers and other places to go and work on ourselves emotionally, spiritually, psychically, in other realms, and kind of going in and out and what we may find there, or what we may uncover. Now, Jupiter can also deal with riches. So keep in mind that when I like to look at astrology, I like to look at it literally, but more so figuratively. And I think that everybody really benefits from looking at astrology figuratively, because it does not always play out literally. And in many ways, you guys have to remember that these planets are archetypally interjecting themselves into our lives on a regular basis, okay? It's not just, oh, Neptune, the planet, and this is what it means. That's very two-dimensional type of astrology. I encourage people to get out of that and really focus more on having conversations with planets and realizing that they'll speak to you in your daily routine. So can Jupiter, Neptune things happen literally? Yeah, and we'll talk about that. But Jupiter, Neptune, or just some of these energies can play out quite figuratively as well. So when I say, how deep do you want to go in the swimming pool? I can also mean, well, how deep do you want to go down the rabbit hole? You get what I'm saying? So, there's a little bit of that. And you have to have that when you're dealing with Neptune. It has to be something that is imaginative and creative and whimsical and otherworldly. And then when you throw Jupiter into the mix, who in my opinion is a lot of like the Riddler, or the magician, or somebody who is going to speak in riddles and ask you questions and ask you to go deeper and question things. I think a lot of this transit can be summed up so much by like that scene from The Matrix where, you have, oh my goodness, what's his name now? I forget. Morpheus. He goes, do you want the blue pill or do you want the red pill? Right? So I think a lot of you guys who are watching this right now, obviously are somebody who's more likely to take the pill that's going to send you down the rabbit hole. So a lot of this conversation can kind of feel like that. What I really like about this conjunction is that it's happening in a water sign. So that gives us the ability to really practice being more conscious and aware of our emotions. Granted, there can be lots of water works and also just like feeling very watery and emotional and just feeling things more deeply than usual, right? It allows us to be more empathic, intuitive, expansive, and believe in magic and believe in things that could be otherworldly. Now, being that it's going to be in the late degrees of Pisces, it is going to be affecting us globally. So especially when we're looking at outer planets, we'll talk about this, but whenever you're getting past that 20, 21 degrees of a sign, then we start seeing that energy manifest on a global level. I like using this technique. I feel like the first 10 degrees is just kind of getting acclimated into that energy, feeling it out, seeing what's going on there. The second, I guess like 10 to 20 degrees is more, how am I doing this myself? How am I doing this in my day-to-day life? And then boom, once you pass 20, 21 degrees, we start seeing things happening globally. So right now, we see Jupiter and Neptune that have just surpassed that. So things are going to start getting pretty active as they come into this conjunction globally. Now, within the third decan of Pisces, this is one that is ruled by Pluto. So traditionally, Pluto is pretty happy in a water sign. So this like Pluto connection to the last 10 degrees of Pisces does encourage us to be more aware of intense, transformative, and periods of learning to release and let go and coming to completion, basically. Those of you guys who have seen, I did 2 separate videos actually on the Jupiter and Neptune conjunction. I did one back in, I think it was May of 2021. and I did another follow-up video, and this would be my third video on Neptune. If you want more kind of lighthearted, insightful, less kind of heady stuff, you can also check out my podcast that I do at the Peace Dealer. We actually just put this, we're getting ready to put this video out. It's going to be coming out, I think, on Monday. But we discuss and we go back and forth about some of our predictions with this. But this is really putting an emphasis on Pluto-related themes. And it's interesting to me that there's also a sextile that we are seeing between this conjunction in Pluto and Capricorn. So expect it to be transformative. Like I've said in other videos, it reminds me a lot of like you're building a sandcastle and you're sitting on the beach and you're orchestrating this whole thing that you've created, and it's your vision, and you put it together and it all comes together and it's beautiful, but it's also this thing that's very sensitive. It's very delicate. A wave can come in and hit it and crash it all away, and then you see the sand just kind of fade and, you know, come into the rest of the beach, right? And it's gone. It just vanishes. That's how this energy is, okay? So we can see that things can miraculously change and vanish in a good way, where we kind of really get rid of and dismiss or dissolve long-standing crisis or spiritual beliefs or issues or health problems or blocks that we've been dealing with for a long time. So in that sense, it's really great. But by the same token, while you're working with this Neptune energy, you guys need to keep in mind that you could be building something, this sandcastle idea in your life, and it's very sensitive and it's very fragile. And we want to be mindful of what we're building and if there is an actual purpose connected to what we're building, right? So a conjunction. A conjunction is a close or exact meeting between planets. Specifically, this is a conjunction between two planets, Jupiter and Neptune. Because Neptune and Jupiter are outer planets, this is a conjunction that does not happen so often. When we see conjunctions happening in outer planets, like, you know, Neptune, Uranus, or Pluto, generally speaking, it's more rare because these planetary cycles that link up are not as active as other inner planet transits like Mercury or Mars, or maybe even the sun or the moon. And Jupiter and Neptune meet up around every 12 years. So actually, I did a little research into the last conjunction. It looks like the last conjunction was May of 2009. And it included a conjunction to Chiron at the time. And ironically, it was in a conjunction in Aquarius, around 26 degrees of Aquarius, where Saturn is going to be pretty shortly. So is it connected? Maybe. I mean, I guess technically that's a semi-sextile to some of the same degree placements when you think about it. But I don't think there's that much of a connection. I guess just me personally, all I can do is really reflect on what was going on in spring of 2009 for me particularly. And I can think of some really prominent things that were happening for me personally, and how it's actually really kind of set forth a pattern that was then expanding into what ended up being like a really important thing in my life, you know, which is like my practice and the work that I'm doing. Actually, that spring, I remember being at a turning point where I was actually starting to buy myself like tarot decks and was working with tarot decks. So it's just kind of cool how this all kind of comes back. Now, back then it was in an air sign and it also involved Chiron. So it's a very different lecture in itself. But all you need to know is that by looking at that period, you can actually see where there was like an opportunity to renew our beliefs and expand our beliefs or our philosophies. Especially in Aquarius, it's like about friends or our goals or vibration or anything of that nature. The last Jupiter-Neptune conjunction also, you know, I feel like because these same degrees are getting triggered here right now with Venus, you know, with Saturn, with Mars pretty soon, may in some ways bring you guys back to what you actually learned then, and just as like a reflection and a reminder before you upgrade a little bit of where you're going. Now, the last time we saw Jupiter and Neptune conjunct in the sign of Pisces, so this is a little bit more rare. We don't see this, I think it's like every 180 odd years. The last conjunction we had was in 1856. So it's been some time since we've had this. So I feel inclined to tell some people that this is a really interesting time to be alive, even outside of this conjunction, even astrology aside. There's just some wild stuff happening. But the fact that we are here and hopefully doing our work to be conscious and aware that these energies are coming in, that they're flooding the planet. Once again, I want you guys to think about transits not just as being something that is, we look at on a screen, or, yes, it's planets moving around in our solar system, but astrology is the study of our relation to some of those planets, and archetypally and in sense of like signs and omens, how they actually speak to us in our life, as above, so below. I guess maybe I must have had like so many past lives or something in like Rome or Greece, just with this conscious awareness always of the gods are around, they're watching, they intervene with our lives. I kind of have like this view similar to something in like Hercules, that's like they're gonna come and strike at any time. But when we look at Jupiter and Neptune together, it's the blurring of boundaries and beliefs and allowing us to feel our way intuitively into a new state of being. Feels a lot like embracing uncertainty, believing, emotionally healing and expanding, consciousness expanding, emotional awareness, intuition, learning to lean into and accepting and infusing other beliefs and other cultures, dissolving boundaries between borders and belief systems, surrendering and believing in a higher power. So the pros, obviously, of this conjunction is, quite frankly, it's like a baptism, right? This isn't a water sign. Jupiter might be, Jupiter and Neptune working together like, hey, we're going to baptize everybody. Welcome to the new cult of Jupiter and Neptune. I say that kind of seriously though. But the ability to, I think, learn and expand and be more aware of how we're feeling, right? I think we live in a culture, at least here in the United States, where it's just go, 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 go. In a lot of ways, some of this energetic or emotional hangover is as a result of living that life for very long, perhaps living life without a connection to a belief in a higher power, or a spiritual practice or a religious practice. And finally, we're starting to kind of really feel the effects of where we have been doing things or running our life without spirit in any capacity. So it'll allow us to go deeper, I think, into new belief systems. I think it'll allow us to learn to be more open to dissolving certain things if it's not a part of our higher spiritual good. I think it's also about learning to believe in things before we can see them. I've said this a lot on my channel. I'm going to keep saying that because it's a theme that's going to keep happening for the next 2 months. The truth is that with this conjunction and this period of time, our prayers have, I think, extra potency because Jupiter does reign over prayers. And Neptune can very much be about giving us peace and grace and support, especially when we find that we're very low on that right now. And many of us are, I think, in a way feeling very lost and like looking for meaning or looking for purpose or asking ourselves, why am I here? Why did I come back here? Why did I reincarnate here? Why am I working the job that I'm working? Do I believe in some of the things that I'm saying? Am I really practicing a conscious connection with a higher power? Am I regularly saying grace or saying thank you? Do I pray for the world? Do I pray for people who are in need? Am I holding space for those who are lonely or fearful or isolated or lost? The cons of some of these conjunctions can be an expansion of fears. Phobias, collective fear, and isolation unfolding, losing beliefs or losing the vision, getting sucked into paranoia, uncertainty, confusion, or disillusionment. So like I said, when Jupiter comes into conjunction with another planet, Jupiter can magnify that planet's energy. So if Jupiter comes in, remember this isn't a water sign, so it's emotional, guys. It's not going to be something that you're just going to see very quickly. It's going to be this feeling of energy or empathicness or emotions that seep in, and then you're going to go, oh my God, I'm underwater. That was the experience that I had earlier today. And it was something that really kind of caught me off guard, especially because I feel like I do my best to be really good with just being conscious and aware of like my energy versus other people's energy. And knowing that, the whole purpose of what's going on is to kind of get us into the state of living our life where we're in flow and in a constant state of meditation. And I've realized that I haven't been so good with doing that. And I got totally emotionally overwhelmed, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I have all these things on my plate and all this stuff is going on. And it was this interesting moment where I could really lean into the Neptune energy and just go, you know what, I need to let it go. I need to let some things go. I need to dissolve some things. I need to release. But then there was this other side that was like, okay, what am I learning from this? Like the beauty and kind of like the breakdown. Part of that's Pluto. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about aspects and aspects that are going to be going on, because like I said, we first see the conjunction that will be taking place at 23 degrees of Pisces, and then it will move to 24 degrees. So just some insights. I work with degree theory. I find it to be pretty accurate for my readings for my clients, and 23s are always associated with Aquarius energy. So it doesn't matter what sign it's in. Obviously, we do want to apply the sign so we know it's Pisces, but it's Pisces within a Aquarius degree. So first we see it go to 23. It's connected to separation, explosion, electricity, heights, rapid speeds, electricity, again, energy, modern, artificial, nervous, mental stress, nervousness, or the future. So when we apply Neptune to that, are we anxious and fearful about the future? Are we seeing that, a lot of people are losing their mind over what's going on with, things rapidly speeding up, right? So this will be a theme that we'll talk about a lot today, but the future is speeding up. I just have a theory, like I don't have a background in physics. Sorry, I'm like a cultural anthro, background, but I think that time is speeding up. Timelines are speeding up. There are certain things that I think that we have been wanting for a long time, or maybe we've been holding space for, or having dreams about, or just things that we have had a feeling were going to come, good or bad. And I think with Neptune at this degree, really what it's saying is that things are quickly dissolving, things are quickly falling away. And some people might look at it and go, oh my God, I'm panicked. It's like everywhere I turn, nothing's sticking, nothing's coming together. And then we see that energy expand. By the same token, and this is the Jupiter kind of blind optimism coming in, Jupiter can say, well, you had this experience. How does it make you feel? How does this now impact your emotions? And how are you going to react or feel differently? And how do you feel about that leaving? How do you feel about the fact that things are coming so quickly? Are you excited? Are you scared? Just an exercise I've been doing regularly is just like replacing fear with excitement. And I've been trying to do that a lot. I was trying to do that last year when Jupiter was in Aquarius. But now that Jupiter is in Pisces, it's like when I start to feel that coming on, I'm like, God, that's really scary. I don't know where it's going to go, but I know it's going to be exciting. It's going to be good. And we're learning something and we're evolving. Right? And it's super hard for me to kind of keep that mindset. But I think that that's the beauty of this, that it's not even so much where we're going, but how are we getting there? How do we feel in the kind of the space shuttle on our way to this new space or this new dimension. Then we look at the ingress into 24 degrees. So this is going to obviously be super active within the dates that I gave you, all the way through April for the most part, but it's going to start around the 8th. 24 degrees is a Piscean degree. So it's like doubly Pisces. It's connected to disappearances, loss, losing, fears, phobias, disease, mental diseases, hospitals, medications, pharmaceutical companies, isolated places, religious places, God, spiritual, nighttime, oil, gas, photography, screens, false, untrue, foggy, research, drowning, poison, runaways, and the sea. I know that's a lot. Obviously there's some crazy stuff here. And there's no coincidence that when we see anything involving Neptune, there's going to be stuff that's going to come out about the sea, about oceans. But when I think of like that 23 conjunction, it's like, okay, this is happening really fast. What are we going to do? Oh my God, this is crazy. And then it's like 24 and it's like, it can vanish, you know, it can vanish. Or it can quickly turn into a fear, or it can quickly turn into a spiritual moment, an epiphany, a connection to God, a dream that's incredibly insightful, a photo that we take that is inspiring or helps us really connect on a deep emotional level. The screens we look at, the Oculus sets we wear, the metaverse, all of these artificial realities and dimensions that we're falling into, where it's Neptune's land, where anything goes. I think a lot about the sextile between Pluto and Capricorn and these two planets. And it's reminding us that, you know, it's very much the above energy in flow with Pluto. So it can bring up themes like, shadow governments, power struggles and collective groups, large companies dissolving, goals dissolving, anything revolving around old goals that we are having to work too hard for. Some may say it's going to be about government in general. Some may say it's about capitalism. It's hard to say. Then I think about the sextile to the North Node in Taurus, and it's going to teach us how hidden energies, both spiritual and artificial vibrations, affect our bodies, where life comes from the ocean, where what we see on screens affect us emotionally and spiritually, where our nervous system is being run, on overdrive. But because this is a sextile, we must do the work. So when we look at sextiles between Pisces and Taurus, it's how do we dissolve our daydreams so we can get real and get practical? How do we get the mental or emotional or spiritual guidance that we need so that way we know that we're building with purpose? How do we learn to rest at the end of the day and release and let go and let the body recharge so that way we can really feel good in our skin? It'll make a trine to the South Node, releasing and healing karma and anything relating to our past lives, anything relating to the past in this lifetime. Keep in mind the South Node is our karmic release. So when we experience these trines between Jupiter, Neptune, and the South Node, we're releasing grief, sorrow, pain, and fear, especially when it relates to death, loss, addiction, anything relating to abuse, specifically like sexual abuse or anything of that nature. I think it's also going to teach us a lot more about how artificial toxins or fake or altered media or intensified media or just this like circus of things that are going on in the world and what we're watching, the effect that it has on our body and how weather or the sea is being manipulated, possibly. This is the sextiles between Jupiter, Neptune, and the North Node. It's no longer sextiling Uranus. It's also going to be about how the Earth responds to vibrations of our bodies and vice versa. That perhaps world or actual like rattling and like tumbling energies from the Earth can actually affect our bodies and maybe are a reflection of our conscious or unconscious like energies that we're putting out there, and where we benefit from grounding our energies and connecting to the Earth and reminding ourselves to stay grounded in the midst of some of these chaotic energies. It's also going to show us a little bit more, I think, about where energy from the sea may help us grow food or expand for future, usage, like, possibly living or just learning more about what may come from the oceans. So I think that we might like find some major opportunity to find like a new natural gas or something. We may also find that there's just like a lot of valuable things that are coming from the sea. It doesn't always mean materials. It can also just be like things that we've explored or things that we've uncovered. So I'd like to talk to you guys about the Sabian symbols really quick relating to this. So once again, Sabian symbols. So I'm going to read to you guys 23 of Pisces, and then I'm going to read to you 24. And we'll see how this kind of relates to the energies that we've discussed. I have not read these yet. I have read them before, but I didn't remember which ones they were. Pisces 23, spirit is phenomenon. The keyword is sensitivity. The theme is strange things happening. The symbol speaks to the materialization of a higher reality or the ability for a man to tap into a potential that he can make and manifest according to his particular will and desire. The image of a spiritualist phenomenon emphasizes the power of the mind and the importance to focus on mental discipline. The challenge of this degree is learning how to speak through the conditioning effects of experience and develop a greater sensitivity to the possibilities of what yet can be achieved. The key is not allowing the self to become distracted by the allure of every passing whim and fancy or the trivial problems of everyday living. On a practical level, it alludes to the psychic phenomenon and oftentimes entertaining activities of the invisible world. Gremlins, or the mysterious causes of things that inexplicably go wrong, break, disappear, or change in some way. At its highest, it speaks to psychic sensitivity, highly refined attunement to higher potential of all things, and powerful depths of focus leads to significant achievements. The accent is on strange events that may disrupt business as usual. Things could go wrong or turn out unexpectedly. Guard against creating your own chaos by refusing to discipline yourself in order to establish your life. Understand the greater significance of being revealed when things don't go as planned, or like when things dissolve and fall apart. Interesting. So let's read for 24. So Pisces 24, an inhabited island. The keyword is cultivation. The theme is adaptability. The symbol speaks to self-containment, self-sufficiency, having everything needed to function independently, ready and available at hand. It also speaks to organizing resources to their maximum or most profitable use. The image of an inhabited island emphasizes ingenuity, and it stresses the importance of thoroughly analyzing the potential usefulness of everything that can be found at hand in any situation of need. In practical terms, this degree is about learning how to adapt and look at things in different ways, being willing to make do. At its positive, the highest represents inventiveness, creativity, and the ability to find a clever or novel way to get the job done. Guard against being selfish, indulging, or isolating yourself. It's about having a do-it-yourself mentality. So it's interesting. That's like, okay, the 23 is like, things are happening. This isn't supposed to go this way. This is weird. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, what did we learn? I can do it. I can do it myself. So that can be quite literally. That's about, believing in the self, or focusing on more on, maybe your vision, or learning more about, I think, letting go of how things are supposed to be, right? There's this dissolving of like, well, it wasn't supposed to go this way. No, it wasn't. But, what are we learning to cultivate? I think in the process of making do and improvising, and I think still using your intuition to adapt to some of these changes, and being more self-sufficient or refined, right? So I want to read to you guys a little bit now more on the archetypes, just in like closing, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about this conjunction and what my other book has to say. I love this book by Red Butler. Just amazing. It's like very poetic, some of the stuff that he writes. So the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. Grand idealism and vision, dreams come true, optimism, a rich and creative imagination, oceanic ecstasy, a spiritualized view of what constitutes success in life, tendencies towards rose-colored over-optimism, mirages of grand prosperity, excessive religious tappings, ceremony, and spiritual materialism. Just a tendency towards over-optimism and seeing the world, I think, through rose-colored glasses really kind of encapsulates more so the more dangerous side of this conjunction. But I think that, it does overall have this very, because Jupiter comes in and goes, have you seen this? This is great. Have you learned this? Take a look at this, read this, watch this movie, watch this film. It can be these photos or movies that we watch that help us restore our faith in humanity, or the fact that we're seeing a polar bear, befriending a seal in an ad that we see on television. can be like this, like, oh, you know, it's amazing. Like, look at that picture. It's just showing you how nature comes together, and can talk about like this cosmic unity, right? When it's conjunct Neptune, blissful states of cosmic unity, feeling lifted and blissful awareness and zany imaginations, synchronicities and exalted dreams. Enchantment. It's perfect. Enchantment. Self-exploration, you know, and dream images that are more mystical and expansive, luxurious. Think of like, you know, underwater springs and, you know, serene waves, grand lakes, these kinds of things. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Just things overpouring, you know. I almost think of like something that reminds me very like Jupiter, Neptune is just really colorful films and images, and almost like those, trying to think of what they're called. It's like the projections that they would do with like all the liquids and everything that's like moving and playing into each other and kind of fusing. So that's that. And then I'll read you a little bit. This might be a little bit longer of the Gods of Change. Once again, all these videos, all of these books I'll put on my Amazon so you guys can take a look if there are things that you want to read. If you're going through a really prominent Saturn, not Saturn, a really prominent Pluto or Neptune transit, I really recommend this book. This has been very, very, very insightful. And I read a lot of astrology books, but this has been incredibly helpful in helping me understand some of the Uranus-Pluto stuff right now. So on Jupiter, Neptune. Jupiter is associated with the urge to give meaning and existence through a chosen philosophy or belief system. It also linked to any experience in which broadens our awareness, such as travel, pursuit, or higher education. Neptune inspires, but can also confuse. When it transits in aspect to Jupiter, we experience both of these effects. In some cases, Neptune stimulates Jupiter's natural expansiveness and idealism. And in other cases, Neptune clouds or distorts Jupiter's judgment or vision. Travel can be affected when you see these conjunctions coming together. There can be things that are quite manic about the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, where there can just be like this blind faith or blind optimism, or, you know, we're going to see extremism on both sides. People who are, you know, usually, you know, believers might really go down the rabbit hole and drink the Kool-Aid, and people who have been lost for some time and are looking for faith may join, you know, religions or belief systems that they are not familiar with and then go all in. There can also be a sense of people starting to lose faith in certain institutions and certain belief systems, and we'll talk about how that kind of connects to Neptune in general. Neptune can also be talking about, you know, making sacrifices, and something that I've noticed kind of throughout the parts of this book is, you know, making the sacrifices that are necessary on a grand scale, the emotional sacrifices, the travel sacrifices, the sacrifices of all of the things that we don't see, the things that we're giving up and we're releasing and letting go in order to keep carrying on, and things that we don't always kind of talk about. And I think with Jupiter coming into conjunction, we become more aware of all the emotional sacrifices that we're making to, you know, just continue our lives in general. And if that's going to a job that we're not crazy about, if that's, you know, carrying a bunch of other people and, you know, their issues on our backs and kind of being a support system but not having it, we're going to start to see that. I think Jupiter and Neptune coming together is going to start to kind of dissolve that in a way, and it can be very overpowering and very emotionally overwhelming when we start to kind of see all of the things that we've been carrying around with us for, you know, for so long. So that's most of what I have on this conjunction. I mean, I would just say that you just want to watch for being impractical and clouded and anything in regards to, you know, the darker sides of those energies. So on to some of my predictions. And while some of these may be bold, I really sat with some of these and kind of channeled a whole list of stuff that on the tail end might get a little bit more wild. I guess my big one for all of this is, obviously it would be nice that this would materialize as world peace. And while I do think it can bring more peaceful situations, it's likely to be short-lived, especially as we get into the summer when Jupiter and Mars go into Aries. But my biggest hope is that this brings more peaceful situations and the opportunity for people to heal and rest and recuperate, and I think get time to reconnect with spirit. I'm also super hopeful, call me idealistic, that they're going to find Atlantis. That's something I keep talking about. I have this feeling that we're going to start seeing more in regards to ruins or temples or things that have been hidden underwater, or that have been flooded, or things that involve ships or treasure chests that are found. But obviously I've always, since I was really little, I wanted to almost be Indiana Jones. I always thought about finding Atlantis, and that what would happen when that comes together, and how that find may tie history more so into the more magical side of, where we come from, and also hopefully other ancient cities and civilizations that would then be connected to Atlantis, but we'll see. So my predictions for Earth in general: flooding, extreme weather, especially involving rising of sea levels, storms like tsunamis, floods, things that involve rivers flooding, or levees or dams. Expanding our knowledge about the ocean and its life, both what's in it, how deep we may go. We might hit some new levels of depth that we're traveling in the ocean in particular, and learning more about life, and also just what we learn from the oceans, and what we may uncover where it's where we come from, right? More about the start of Earth and how life came from the oceans, and just more insight in that in general. I think that we're going to see issues with seafloor faults, whether that's underwater eruptions, or fault lines that are kind of shifting and possibly creating quakes that may trigger warnings to coastal cities for tsunamis. The ocean showing us how important life is, and how they affect everyone, including us. And I think something that we definitely need to watch for will be oil spills, and issues involving just gas or oil lines, or anything in regards to the ocean. Like I said, it can magnify some of these problems, so we can actually find or uncover where there have been spills we didn't hear about, the impact that spills have been having, or one that possibly tries to get covered up. Now for humanity, I see people moving, relocating, fleeing cities, or looking for refuge in other lands. And I say this because the Jupiter travel aspect, but also with Neptune can be those who are lost. So we may see a theme of, tons of people being, misplaced because of war, or needing to, actually migrate and go to a new country, or seeking asylum in a country for security because of, global issues. We may see large numbers of adoptions or orphans, or just particular rise in people who are either wanting to adopt and wanting to jump in and help those who are in need or who are homeless. That's also very much tied to Neptune in general. I do think that it can provide peace after conflict. Like I said, I don't think it's going to come until the end of April. And even then, it will be a short period of time. But I imagine it may be a collective call for resolution, and perhaps even peace treaties. So that'll be interesting to see what's going on in the world after, like I said, what is likely to be a very intense first couple months. And I also have new updates in health and hospital treatments. And I'm imagining that that's just going to be expansion of healthcare, more talk about, healthcare for everybody, especially countries who aren't providing that or not making it something that is affordable. So we might see more hospitals or wellness centers open up. The same thing maybe with churches and temples. We may see borders dissolving in some parts of the world, or the talk about, rearranging or changing borders in general. Sudden travel expansion, so we're going to see that with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, especially over or by sea. So we might see more people who can now start flying overseas, going back and forth and visiting overseas. We might just see an uptick in the travel industry in general, and particularly looking at airlines as well as cruise ships, because both do have some connections to Jupiter or Neptune in general. We might just see actually cruises really kind of come back because of this. Also, new hidden viruses or fears spreading. And, this is one I'm a little iffy about, but, Neptune can be sprays or gases or viruses or anything that is invisible to us. So adding that with Jupiter and some kind of expansion, I'm watching to see, are there going to be numbers that are going to rise, unfortunately, in some parts of the world, which may materialize as what can be global fears and global chaos, and a much more difficult time in reeling in what can be some of these infectious kind of diseases in general. For spirituality, in terms of what I'm seeing there, I think it's going to bring more collective crisis, which leads to waves of people waking up and being more aware. New healing modalities on a cellular level because of the sextile to Pluto, or the ability to dissolve long-standing illnesses, miraculous opportunities for healing because the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction can literally be like miracles. I think it's going to give us more insight onto sound healing and vibration and vibrational healings, and the power of prayer and the power of meditation. I think we're going to learn more about the subconscious and past lives and other things pertaining to psychology and altered states of being, including more research and studies and application when it comes to psychedelics. We've also got new movements, beliefs of people who might be now going more so to church or temple, but on the flip side, we're more likely to see issues with cults. New prophets, spiritualists, and protests for peace. I'm hoping that this becomes, peaceful protest movements, like people sitting in silence, people, holding hands, meditating, everybody taking photos, not saying anything. It can almost be like, I think there might be a movement that's like a picture's worth 1,000 words, and then everybody takes a picture. It could be something like that. I think we're also going to see new insight on the afterlife and how energy affects our bodies in general, both positive and negative. Secret groups and societies who work together to organize and energetically come together and start focusing on how they can influence collective energies. So this can be good or bad. I see more awareness of our bodies and how we need positive vibration, and the need for clearing and purification, baptisms, baths, and I think we're going to see more miracles. In terms of resources, I see this as bringing us more food from the ocean, or opportunities to grow or harvest food from the ocean, as well as other resources that we may somehow find to be very important and very maybe even profitable. New types of oil or gas. I have a hunch that we're going to see, because of some of the stuff that's going on right now in Ukraine and Russia, possibly a breakthrough where, yes, prices will continue to rise, but it may materialize as us having to look harder for resources and possibly turning to natural gas or liquid gases, or anything where we can turn liquids into fuel or energy. Possibly even more like how the ocean can help us, foster new ways of generating energy, or taking energy to generate water. I think that's something we're going to see more of. Pushing towards weird and artificial foods, lab-grown meats, or artificial liquids. I'm wondering about that. I think that that's more the sextile to Uranus and the North Node, but I think that it's important for us to know what's going on globally with food supplies and shortages. And I think a lot of this is just a relation to just the population that we have on the planet. And if really collectively we're aware of the seriousness of our impact, both in the natural kind of very sensitive cycle of life on this planet, but also, do we have enough resources? Are we aware of how things may actually be quite limited? Are we going into a future where, because of our population numbers, we're going down a bit of a bleak path when it comes to being able to know that we're going to be supported And I think that a lot of people collectively are going to start to put the pieces together and kind of realize that a lot of what's going on really comes down to resources and the fact that we're running out of options, and we're also depleting our planet. I believe that it will also innovate us in terms of finding new ways to collect water, what we're doing with water, how we can save water. We've got parts of the world that's going to be flooded, parts of the country here in America that may be flooded, but parts of the Southwest that may be really thirsty for it. So I'm wondering how we can orchestrate new ways of getting water naturally and bringing it to places where we're having dryness, because we are going to have excessive rains and wetness and flooding in some parts of the world. I'm also hoping that with the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, we're going to see more like a legitimacy brought to spirituality and spiritual related fields like astrology, healing, psychic stuff, intuitive healing. I'm wondering if there's going to be new opportunities to actually get certifications and like legitimate, educations from institutions, or if there's going to be more institutions popping up that are going to give us the opportunity to learn more on a higher level and bring more kind of solidness to some of these professions, so that way they're going to be better recognized in the community. So these are more of my conspiracies, okay? So this is just some stuff that I was thinking about, because a lot of this stuff keeps coming up for me. So you may or may not agree with this. I think there might be a major data dump of concealed trials, research, and things relating to just stuff that's gone on behind closed doors, both in politics as well as big pharma. I think that there's going to be a real emphasis here in the next couple of weeks where collectively things might seem like they're really being manipulated right before the truth comes out about some of these topics. But I think many people are going to possibly lose it over some of the information that's being put out there, and whether that's people being told, okay, the virus is coming back up and we got to go back into isolation, and people freak out, or if it's a situation where it's like there's more information put out about the trials and the things that went on with some of the VAXs, and realizing that there have been some things that have gone on in terms of global elites, and how everybody has kind of taken it in the shorts, emotionally, spiritually, financially. I mean, the list goes on. But I think that we're going to find out here pretty soon that we've been misled on a lot of major world events. Pharmaceutical truths unveiled, intentional frequencies that are being released to affect the mind or the body, and there in turn affect our behavior. Probably a really good time to be wearing your grounding crystals, not hanging out around a bunch of towers, really being mindful of maybe anything that can offset some like radiation stuff in the home, anything of that nature, taking time to leave your phone, unplug, go out, go for a hike, ground your energy, put your feet in the grass, and remind yourself that it's really important to be connecting to nature. I think that with the intentional frequencies, I say that because of the Pluto aspect to Neptune and the Neptune aspect to Uranus, and that we may start noticing that there are places or groups of people who start acting or behaving very strangely, possibly because there's frequencies that are putting out that are meant to be kind of scrambling our energies, and they're in turn affecting our emotional behavior. Whether that's to rile up people or to calm people down and sedate them or stop them, I really don't know. It's just a hunch that I have. I think we're going to possibly see some very wild weather. So we talked about this a little bit. Jupiter expands, Neptune can be wetness, so it can be all kinds of wet weather or issues in regards to earth and water kind of giving in or, getting stuck or anything like that. But I also have some big thoughts on intentionally influencing weather in certain parts of the world, and how that may be something where people are starting to question, like what's really going on, like the insane fluctuations that's happening temperature-wise, and also in certain areas where people might be, kind of mobilizing and coming together, there may be extreme weather. So I wonder if they're going to be influencing that more. Issues with false media, more of it, people getting lost in screens. So I think of people like getting high, drinking, hanging out on, their Oculus for hours at a time, getting lost in like a false illusion of a new world and like losing touch with their identity and going so far into some things that it's hard to get out of it. It's hard to quit. So addictions to screens, us being stuck on our phone screen, our computer screen, and just being more mindful of what we're seeing, because it can almost feel like there's like this hypnotic effect that's happening to some people. And yeah, I mean, manipulated edits, in general. I think that some of the stuff that's going on now, where you can basically steal anybody's face and manipulate it in a program and make it look like there's somebody talking or giving an interview or doing something, but it's really not them. That's kind of scary to me, the fact that everything now is so augmented that it's hard to even tell what is real and what's fake. Very Neptune. I think we're going to see that also being tied to more subliminal programming. I think this will be at an all-time high. I think I've said this in the past. I'm kind of a weirdo. I'm not like somebody who watches a lot of TV. I'll binge watch, some of my shows on Netflix, but I'm not like somebody who sits down and watches commercials. But my vice is I really love football. I love watching football. And I just noticed that when I would watch sports or anything on major network television, I'm watching for about an hour or so, and I'm like, I really want a pizza. I need to go shopping. Like there's some weird, and I can't explain it. It does not happen unless I think I'm just being exposed to some of those ads or some of those things, and obviously some of my favorite vices. But it has like an effect, and it was enough for me to notice it a couple years ago and be like, there's no TV in my bedroom. I don't want to have a TV in my bedroom. And when I started really moving away from that and being more conscious of what I'm watching and what I'm seeing, same thing goes with movies and like other things. I'm not like somebody who watches, like, I can't watch certain scary movies, got to have my light on, or, I am very sensitive to anything involving like violence or anything like with violence with women or children or animals. I can't do it. So I've just noticed that since having more of a filter of like what I'm taking in, it's had a much better effect on me. And I'm curious if people are going to start noticing that they're acting differently or acting up or becoming more addicted or more fixated on buying or spending things, just with the uptick of what might be happening with subliminal messaging. I think we're going to see, unfortunately, a rise in mental issues, addiction issues globally. I think we're going to see major problems, primarily tied to like alcohol, because Neptune can be liquids, but Jupiter Neptune can be overdoing it. So overdoing it with prescriptions, overdoing it with, wine, overdoing it with pot, anything that takes the edge off, I would say is going to appeal more to us now. There is going to be a sense of us wanting to do that and losing our kind of boundaries and like loosening up our inhibitions, right? For me, I mean, the way that I interpret this energy is a lot of like, you have a glass of wine, you're like, wow, it feels really good. I kind of let loose. Let me have another one. And you lose track of what you've had to drink, right? Or maybe it slips your mind and you forget that, you actually earlier took a pain pill. I mean, like this kind of stuff is going to be so easy to happen. Issues with medications and overdoing it and overdoses, and people who are drugging and going to sleep and not waking up. Unfortunately, and this is kind of the darker side of it, is I do think that we are going to see a rise in suicides. I've said this before on my podcast, I'll say it again. Like, I think really the most devastating thing about COVID was not even COVID itself, but the effect that COVID had on us mentally and emotionally. A lot of people lost people. They had loved ones die, and some of them didn't get to say goodbye. Obviously, that's going to have an effect on us psychologically. You also have a lot of people who have been pushed to their limit emotionally and also financially, to where that Neptune energy starts kicking in, and we feel like, we're just falling apart, we're dissolving. We can't do it anymore. The world's too hard type of feeling. So helplessness and loss and grief, but more importantly, with the sextile to Pluto in the trine to the South Node, I'm hopeful, but it makes me really sad thinking about it, just knowing that so many people have really struggled mentally and emotionally, and haven't gotten the help that they needed, or maybe felt like they were in a situation they couldn't get out of and turned to suicide. Obviously, being a person who's alive, it's not really my place. Suicide is, I think when we look at it, spiritually, it's like there is a possibility, and I have this feeling that it is a karmic thing, right? Perhaps maybe we keep coming back here because we're here to learn lessons and kind of move through and supersede these experiences so the soul can evolve. And we may keep coming back here with the same people, experiencing the same situations, working through it till we get it right, we pass the test, and then we get to go to the other side, and we get to come back to each other. But really what I'm getting at is that I think these energies are going to be higher, and I think that when it comes to suicide, I think we're perhaps maybe going to see that people who usually seem very mentally strong and very mentally secure are kind of starting to crack. And we will feel that energy from other people. So as people start to feel more helpless, if they don't have outlets, if they don't have assistance for this conjunction, we can see more of a rise in suicides, or people drowning. That's another thing. People overdosing. That can be something that can happen, unfortunately. We'll see more people who will suddenly disappear, drowned, or die mysteriously, who might just disappear. More missing peoples, very significant missing persons that may kind of come up in the news in particular. False prophets, global scams, big scams. We might see major dissolvings of film or movie companies. That might be something that also happens as a result of this. People who claim that, they're the second coming, or people who claim to have the answer, or they claim to be the savior, or can kind of take you back home. I think that that's kind of the scary thing of the false prophets. When I think of, prophets in general, though, I kind of like the Jupiter Neptune. I'm like, okay, is there like another Edgar Cayce that's coming? Is somebody else going to show up soon that's going to really open our eyes, similar to Cayce, or maybe even Dolores Cannon, into the other side and the other world and the afterlife, and why we come back here, and where we're all kind of connected in this cosmic space, hopefully. I think we're going to hear more about hidden camps, centers, and detainment centers. I'll leave it at that. And I think we're going to see major issues with drug trades and drug moves happening, drug busts, major amounts of drugs being found on borders, or being found at sea, or being moved by sea or secretly, which can lead obviously to more crime or more issues with like the cartel, especially when I think of the aspects to Pluto and the South Node. So, how can I help you? I'm going to give you guys a whole list of stuff. I'll give you some examples of how it's manifested in my life. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. Obviously, I'm giving you insight as to how it pertains to the archetypes and the planets energetically. And while these things can help you, they're not meant to cure anything. But specifically, Pisces rules the feet and toes, all bodily fluids, like mucus, blood, the lymphatic system, and the glandular system. Tissues in the body, systems that deal with relaxation, respiratory, pineal gland, abdomen. These are all connected to Pisces. Now, 23 degrees of Pisces is connected to the Achilles tendon, the spine, appendicitis, and fevers. Now, that's not in any way I'm saying that this is something that everybody's going to get, okay? If you have a particular placement at 23 or 24 degrees of Pisces, you may want to pay attention, especially if it's like your ascendant, or maybe it's within your 6th house. So if you're a Libra rising and this is happening in your 6th house, it could be you, or Libras in general, I would say. And but yeah, if you have Pisces in the 6th or personal planets in Pisces, pay special attention, because these things can come up. I wonder if we're going to just notice like there's going to be an uptick of like people having spinal issues, or noticing like strange things going on with fevers and people getting sick, and that's how we find out that there's like another virus. 24 degrees of Pisces deals with the right distal tibia fibular joint. I can't even tell you where that is. I'm just pulling this information. And fevers, once again. So just food for thought. Medicines like massage, meditation, energy healing can be really helpful when it comes to dealing anything in regards to Pisces, and incorporating foods that are very nutrient rich. Getting plenty of sleep, learning how to create firm boundaries, and grounding your energy out as much as possible. Learning how to identify your feelings versus other people's feelings, and practicing being more empathic, but being kind of disciplined at that. And just allowing yourself to rest and recuperate. Now, obviously, those of you guys who are also looking for more help, one-on-one help, because Jupiter Neptune can be wonderful for finding healers, mystics, readers, gurus, people who can help miraculously heal the body. Seeking counselors, therapists, spiritualists, that's what I would recommend for people, while maintaining a sense of awareness that you want to do your research before you're working with somebody, because spiritual scams are going to run really high this year. We're going to see, I think, a real issue with a lot of people who are like, I have the solution, I have the magic potion, I have the answer, I have the retreat, I have the whatever. And a lot of people can get scammed. I think we're seeing a lot of this on the internet with some of the readers' accounts on Instagram right now. Equally, if you have any suicidal feelings or thoughts, or you need someone for support, or you need to talk to someone and get support, it's important that that is taken seriously, including people who are making threats against hurting themselves or their life. This is something I take very seriously, and I would say as a resource, you can call the suicide support hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Meditation, practicing alone time for self-reflection, and being much more aware of your body, being in your body and what your energy feels like is incredibly important. Even if it's taking 10, 15 minutes when you start your day to meditate, reflect, and get grounded into who you are, so you have more of a sense of awareness and balance, and you're not walking out into the world absorbing other people's energy. Spend time in prayer, in any capacity, in any sense. What I think is so cool that I'm just noticing this more in a lot of my sessions with clients is I'm definitely seeing people who are praying more, people who haven't gone to church for a while, people who haven't gone and done Kundalini work for a while, people who haven't gone to temple in years, people who are just joining new belief systems and practices. Prayer is something that comes in all shapes and sizes. So whether you're a Buddhist or a Christian or you're Muslim, it does not matter. The intention of prayer is to raise the vibration. So getting into a habit of praying, and more so praying in regards to guidance, faith, grace, patience, openness, awareness, beliefs, really encouraging and asking that higher power for assistance, whatever it may be. Be mindful of substances, including alcohol, things that you drink, drugs, and what you're watching or consuming. So everything that you have that you're putting into your body, whether you're seeing it, eating it, drinking it, smelling it, feeling it, it does not matter. It is having an effect on you. And equally be aware that your auric field, it's extending to, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 feet. I don't know. I can't see it, but I know it's there. I can tell you when people are in my bubble. I can definitely feel them. Being mindful of just what's around you, and what you're absorbing. And it's not always what you're eating, but what are you listening to? What are you watching? Are you watching things that are kind of, fanning the flames of fear and chaos and conspiracy and running around like a chicken with your head cut off? Or are you focusing more time on being aware of what you're kind of coming into contact with in general? Listen to relaxing music. That's something I can really recommend, whether it's classical music or something that's more instrumental, or something that's going to be just more kind of like relaxing in general. Binaural beats are great. Listening to any ocean sounds or anything on a beach, or maybe even just waves crashing, can be really helpful as well, because that's that Neptunian energy. Changing your screensavers to beaches, oceans, aquariums, undersea stuff, anything relating to water or waterfalls or rivers, lakes, anything like that. I feel like this is actually, it was like night and day for me. I changed all of my screensavers, everything that I got on stuff, and just consciously make an effort whenever I can to, if I'm staring off into something, at least it's got an ocean there. So I'm just reminding myself to just be more aware of what I'm feeling, to be more conscious of what I'm receiving, and feeling more relaxed and kind of connected to nature when I can get it. I live in Nevada, so I don't live near the beach anymore. Anything in regards to getting more adequate rest, keeping dream journals and paying attention and tracking your dreams, because they can be very wild, but they can be very helpful and very insightful right now. I myself have felt like, at least over the last week, there's been a lot of precognitive dreams. So I've had a lot of like dreaming about something and it happens, and I'm noticing that it's speeding up. So it'll be, you know, something that happens in the same week, when usually I'll have a dream a couple months before it happens. So I'm noticing that that's getting stronger and it's playing out quite literally in my life. Keeping dream journals as well, so that way you can kind of decode and better understand what is coming up for you on like a emotional or psychological level. Foot reflexology, foot soaks, scrubs, pedicures, salt sprays, mists. Neptune is water. Jupiter is about vibes. So, do something as simple as get a spray bottle, put a couple shakes of lemon essential oil in it, drop a piece of amethyst in there, and, a pinch of salt, and sit there and pray over it, right? Positive vibes, good intentions, whatever it is that you want to put into it. This is blessed. You have holy water. Congratulations. It's a miracle. And you can spray that. You can spray it in your space. You can, obviously I would keep the water in there maybe no more than 5 or 6 days. Sometimes I'll keep those sprays in the fridge. But you can spray an office space. You can spray after an argument. You can spray before you sit down and do your meditation, right? Before you take your bath even. Also, foot soaks, because Pisces is the feet. So foot reflexology, pedicures, these things are really important in kind of purging and removing all of this stuff through our feet. Being a Saturn Neptune person, I am constantly, a shower is not a shower for me unless I am literally scrubbing the bottoms of my feet with salt. I wear sandals in the house. I don't like my feet touching the ground. I have just noticed that there is like a real connection with Neptune, and that the energy that I absorb, I can very much absorb through my feet. So being better with those pedicures regularly, or taking, your man to go and get one if it's not something he usually does. Maybe check out some foot reflexology spaces near you, and look into learning more about maybe ionic foot baths or soaks. In regards to sprays or mists, this is like my go-to. You can actually, it's funny, you can find this at most like drugstores, or if you go shop at Target, Walmart, wherever you guys shop, you can find it in the men's hair section. I know it sounds weird, but those of you spiritualists, you know what this is. This is Florida water. I'm lucky enough I bought a couple cans of this before I left Los Angeles when I relocated. This is my favorite stuff ever. It's an air freshener and deodorizer, but Florida water is used very specifically in a lot of kind of folk magic, and also it's used a lot in all different kinds of stuff. Being that, being in LA for so many years and going to the botanicas and seeing people use this, I thought was like, that's kind of weird. But then when I started doing my readings regularly for people, I kind of found like, wow, putting it on my hands, rubbing it on the top of my head and then down my body, and just like clearing my vibes, like it had a thing. So, sometimes I'll wipe down my workspace with it, or I clean my altars with it when I change out my flowers, candles. So it's great for just clearing vibes in general. You do not drink this. You can find it liquid. It's not usually in a spray can. These are harder to find. You'll find it in like a bottle that's kind of like a turquoise color, but go and find it by the hair section. Anyways, we use this to clear vibes. We use this to clear energy, and it's a liquid. So whether you're getting it in a body or you're able to find this in the spray can, I love it. Sometimes I'll just be like clearing everything out. It's just, I don't know, something about it. This is my stuff, man. I have a good friend of mine who is a babalao in LA, and he, does the whole 9 yards. He does the readings and everything. And it's just something that he always was just like, yeah, you got to have this. You got to use this. Just be spraying it all the time. So I got into the habit of doing that. In terms of other things you can do, things like detoxes and fasts, water cleanses, water fasting, colonics, all of these things can be really helpful. So staying hydrated and working with water to gently ease and flush things literally or emotionally. Spending time at the beach, by the sea, a pool, or soaking in general, taking baths, focusing on intention when you bathe, and any magical clearing baths or anything that you want to use can also be incredibly helpful. Which leads me to telling you that probably your number one best friend will be this sea salt. I have a bunch of these in my apothecary. Maybe one day I'll make a video and show it to you guys. But this is one of the many salts that I work with. This is the easiest, cheapest, most affordable, most, I think, earthy way to work with Neptune. Is just get yourself some salt, some sea salt, some good sea salt to soak in or to be using for sprays or anything like that for making scrubs. Trader Joe's has like a lavender scrub that's already made, even though I can make that stuff. It's easy to go. It smells wonderful, and it allows me to kind of get all of the gunk off of me after doing readings all week. Also consider looking into supplements like kelp. I like using iodine drops, but I do have to say you have to be careful with that. You can overdo it. So make sure you talk to somebody before you do that. Seaweed or sea vegetables, and just incorporating more liquids that are positive. I would just say, like, I've gotten into the habit of like wanting to have infused water, right? So I'll have a glass of water that's got cucumbers and mint, and it's got lemon in it, or lemon, some kind of like citrus in general. Just staying hydrated has been really important, I think, for also just helping better move some of these emotional energies around. But eating food and seeking to consume food that you feel has good vibes or feels good. It's like, if you're walking around the supermarket and you're selecting food, pick it up, look at it, feel it. Does it feel like it's a good vibrational match? I know that sounds silly, but being more conscious of everything that we are consuming right now is very important. But we have to keep checking in with ourselves and seeing how we respond. Some herbs that can be helpful for you guys is nettles, ginger, pine, chicory, sage, mullein, lavender, witch hazel, and dandelion. Now, me personally, I can only say this, I love coffee with chicory. Maybe it's because I spent so much time in New Orleans, but that's one of my favorite things. So having coffee and chicory together, you can find those blends, has been good. And you can also add it separately if you have it separately. Sage, sage is not limited purely just to burning sage. I love sage candles for this energy. Lavender, whether you're putting it in a bath or you're putting it in tea. Mullein is also really great because for me, it helps me kind of stay really grounded and secure in some of these energies. Witch hazel, I use that from time to time as a toner. Dandelion, if you're somebody who's trying to get off coffee and you want to stay off coffee, you can actually steep dandelion and chicory, and it can steep and make like a darker tea, and it's kind of bitter. And if you add a little bit of cream to it, it can actually double as coffee. So if you're trying to use some more kind of Piscean herbs as a means to detox him from coffee, there you go. You're welcome. Crystals that I would recommend would be, where are they? I have them here. I'm all Neptuned out. I'm like, ugh. Amethyst. So amethyst is really great for obviously developing psychic and intuitive abilities, but also grounding our energy if we're new to certain frequencies. It's going to help us stay open and stay receptive and help develop our intuition. Selenite. So I have a ton of these, okay? They're like everywhere. I have some of these on all of my decks, usually when they're out and about. I'm like psychotic about this. But I love selenite. Number one, you can't get it wet. So don't put it in anything wet because this is made of salt. So this is great for these energies, for clearing or for just kind of maintaining positivity. It's kind of like hokey as it sounds. Sweeping this over your third eye, over your crown, over your throat chakras, anything where you just need a little bit of like a scrub down. It's great. I love to leave my jewelry on selenite when I'm not wearing it, so it kind of clears the energies out. If I have a tarot deck that's being naughty, I'll put it on a tarot deck if it's being a little too sassy with me. Sometimes I will also use this just to kind of grid parts of my office or my space. I always have selenite in all the corners because it kind of replaces traditionally having a big bowl of salt in the room. And occasionally I'll put this outside for a little bit just to clear it, but that's great. Aquamarine and fluorite are other ones. I have an aquamarine somewhere, but I don't know where it is, but I do have a fluorite. And I use this pillar in particular because I feel like it's nice for me. I like working with pillars that are around me when I'm working because I feel like it helps generate the energy into the space. Fluorite is like a psychic vacuum. So whether you're wearing it on a necklace or a bracelet, or you have it somewhere around your space, think of this as like, this is almost like a filter. You know, it's like filtering out stuff in my space. So if there's stuff floating around, it's absorbing it, it's pulling it in. Very much, obviously, this comes in many different colors. Sometimes fluorite, you'll see like the green and the purple. Sometimes it's green and white, sometimes purple and white. This one happens to be green. I wanted it to be green so it has more of like a cooling effect for me. Something else that I really love working with also is, it is labradorite. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? So pretty. I have so many of these actually. One of my favorite things to do is drive out to quartzite, some hours outside of California. But awesome city. You can go and find all kinds of stuff before and after the gemstone show. You can find big pieces like this that are very affordable. I actually use this as one of my bookends. I have several of them. This is the Magician's Stone. It's about manifesting and bringing our visions into reality and being able to ground out that stuff and make magic happen. So this can be wonderful because this energy is very strong where what we're praying for, what we're thinking about, what we're manifesting, good or bad, can happen. So having that balance and really staying in balance and knowing that we're holding space for the positive things that are coming, the changes that we're making, stones can be an awesome way to help us ground that out and bring more earth element and make it practical, make it real. Incense that I would recommend would be myrrh or sandalwood. Those would be the two best things to be burning. It's really going to be great to kind of work with that energy and keep it at bay. Also, if you're doing a lot of work that is very focused or kind of more like mercurial. I would recommend working obviously with salt and lemon. So you can add a little salt and lemon and vinegar together and maybe dilute it with some water and clean floors. You can put lemon in water. You can cook more with lemon. Try to use sea salt. Me personally, I like really good like mineral-based sea salt. So I like the gray salts when I cook because it's got all that stuff in it. Sometimes even putting a pinch of mineral salt into your water can also be really great for getting natural vitamins and minerals. It's one of my tips. And oils that you can work with, essential oils. My go-to probably for this would be I would say lemon and probably orange, or you can work with rosemary. But I just have like a box of a bunch of different ones. Obviously, when you're working with essential oils, be careful. Not all of them should be ingested. You have to be very careful with diluting these, especially if you're going to be cooking with them or putting them on your skin. So make sure you know what you're doing. And when in doubt, always dilute, dilute, dilute. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys. Just a little bit of my intuitive insight and what I was seeing and feeling with this conjunction that's coming. Now I'm going to segue into the card reading for each and every one of the 12 signs. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about where this conjunction is happening for you, what you may experience, what you may feel. So listen, obviously, always for your rising sign. I am a Western astrologer. This is from whole sign perspective. People always got to ask me that. I would also say to you, listen for your sun. That's definitely going to affect you. Sometimes it is right on the money. And also listen to your moon sign, okay? So all of those are important to listen for. If you follow your progress chart, you can listen for that as well. So we are going to start off with Aries and Aries rising. This conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune is happening in your natal 12th house. And these two planets obviously rule your 12th house, as well as Jupiter rules your 9th, which is about philosophy, travel, higher education, law, legality. So being that these two are coming together for you, it really tells me that there can be a sense of you shifting and changing something revolving around your beliefs. You're traveling maybe, perhaps you're looking into higher states of awareness, things you can be learning, retreats you can be going to, programs you can be joining. It may feel like a very magical, mystical time in your life where there is a sense of you going deeper into a new state of belief or a new state of practice. I just want to remind all of the signs, so I'll say this really quickly, that we are seeing positive energy that will be flowing into Taurus. So we will be seeing sextiles between both the North Node and in some cases Uranus. But where Pisces is more water and emotionally kind of connected, Taurus is more physical, tangible, what's grounded, what we can hold, what we feel, our bodies, our earth, our food, our money. So we're seeing conversations between the two. I'm also going to talk to you about where this Pisces energy is kind of flowing, creating that sextile if you work with it to create more stability. So with that being said, for you, Aries, it's happening in your 12th house of foreign places, hidden places, hospitals, things that are more spiritual, magical, your dream state. And it's sextiling, okay, Taurus in your 2nd house. So it can feel like there is a lot of breakdown or breakthrough happening revolving around your beliefs and what you physically believe in or what can be proven to you physically. There can be lots shifting where you're doing a lot of inner emotional work and spiritual work and doing a lot of healing work. So you're feeling better in your body, or you're feeling better connected to your body. On the flip side, it can have you really stressed out, kind of anxious and like worried. When it comes to anything in regards to your money, your resources, kind of going, where is the money going to come from? How is it going to happen? Is it going to pan out? So I just want you to know that while we're dealing with this Jupiter Neptune, it's trying to dissolve things that are maybe old or outdated, or things that need to kind of be released or let go of, old beliefs that you have about money, about your self-worth, about what you are physically worth, about how you could feel about yourself, and anything that's more so tangible. So similar to what I said earlier in the video, it's almost like you're building these sandcastles, and I want you guys to be really focused on building something that you are dreaming about or praying for. You're being guided spiritually. You're very highly being, guided and directed into building something new, building a new belief system, building your bank account up. It can be about building a business that you really believe in. Whatever it is, it's going to be more physical and more tangible for you. So let's see what the cards have to say. So for Aries and Aries rising, the card that you get is the 10 of crystals. So this is the 10 of coins. So this is good. This is physical manifestation. And for many of you, that's how it will appear. But I also think that it's about maybe making it work for you. Maybe you're making your money work for you. Maybe you're changing your beliefs on money and resources. Maybe you're in a situation where you're making a big investment, or you have a big return on something. Regardless of what it is, it's something that's going to last you. So you might be really focused on just where you're going in terms of stability and resources in your life, and knowing that you're going to have what you need for the long term. You're planning long term for long-term wealth. And stability. So that's very positive. 10s always represent a completion. So there's something completing about what you value, or what you actually bring in. For Taurus and Taurus rising, this is Jupiter Neptune conjuncting in your 11th house. The 11th house deals with your goals, and it deals with networks, your friends, what you're believing in, your connection to groups in general. And it's aligning with your 11th house and your 8th house Lord. So you're tying in the energy of the 8th and the 12th house. This is essentially in so many ways saying, are you willing to release and let go of old fears? Are you willing to, work with other people and join up and partner up financially or emotionally to be able to make your dreams come true? It's a really interesting energy because it shows where other people can radically change and transform your goals, and where resources that come from other people, whether it's a loan, it's a credit card, whether it's, you know, somebody who you end up partnering with that then, you know, brings you more stability and totally changes and transforms the way that you look at, you know, working with another person or merging with another person, really opens your eyes. I think it's cool that it's all funneling into Taurus, which is your sign, obviously. So it's a lot of how you're the maverick and you're the person who is coming up with all these amazing and sudden sparks of genius that's really allowing yourself to work with a friend, or maybe achieve your goals or achieve a goal with a group. Perhaps maybe you're helping start a group or you're bringing a group of people together. And this energy is going to be very, very interesting for you, because I think that very quickly you're realizing that your goals and somebody else's goals or a collective goal is the same thing. And that through your sense of just adventure right now, you're just very adventurous. You're willing to take on the world and help that come together. The card that I got for you is the Moon. So this is cool because I think really what it's saying is that you're waking up to and uncovering deep meaning in life and things that you're just like picking up intuitively that you're like, wow, I didn't realize I felt that way. The moon can be shining a light on things that you are not aware of or things that are going on subconsciously. It can also represent this feeling of like, oh, change is coming. I feel like something's right around the corner. I don't know what it is, but something's about to change. For the most part, I think working with the 8th and the 11th house can also really talk about where you're starting to really reap the benefits and start being able to celebrate new things that are kind of, you know, coming into completion and things that you're succeeding at, right? So this is that feeling that's like, oh, it's coming. So it's very positive. For Gemini and Gemini rising, this is going to be a more difficult energy for you, as will all the mutable signs, because you will be experiencing squares, but I'll explain that when I'm done at the end of the video. But specifically, this conjunction is happening in your 10th house. So to be honest with you, it can be this turning point in your career where you suddenly luck out and find your dream job. And it's like everything you've always wanted. Or it could be a situation where you're like, oh my God, my job's ending. You know, I suddenly got, you know, I'm dealing with an illness and I have to step away. There is a sense of an old identity in the world or an old version that's dissolving, right? Because it's happening in your house of career. It aligns with your 7th house, Lord Jupiter. And it's making aspects to Uranus, which is in your 12th house. So in a way, it's kind of telling me that you're reimagining the way that you are in the world and how you show yourself to the world. And for many of you, it can be like, well, I ditched out of my 9-to-5 and now I'm a tarot reader. For other people, it can be, you know, I'm seriously pursuing acting or film. I'm seriously pursuing psychology or therapy. There is a sense of merging that Jupiter and Neptune in your 10th house and like getting into a profession that you feel like more in flow with. Certainly it can be creative and like more art and music as well. But I think with the 7th and the 10th house Lord together, it can also be you're aligning yourself with new partners. You're identifying in the world in a new way where maybe now you have a business partner. Maybe now you have a romantic partner, or now you're married, or now you're single. So there's something changing and transforming about what you're showing there. I would say the two coming together in your 10th house can also be an indication of like working with a spouse or just a partner going through a huge epiphany when it comes to their romantic life with you, and you know, that they're kind of realizing that they need more, or they want more togetherness, or they want to be out in the open and be seen. They don't want to be hidden. That can come up as well. Or just that your partner maybe has like a good run with their career. It's another way that I would interpret that. Being that it's sextiling into Uranus in the 12th, I could see where this is having you possibly work behind closed doors more, you know, in editing rooms. Maybe you're, you know, behind the camera. You're not in front of the camera any longer. Maybe you're connecting with people who are foreigners and in other countries, or people who work in like hospitals or institutions or private sectors. So it's going to, I think for the most part, the Jupiter-Neptune's good for you. I just think it's going to be a little confusing for you, Gemini. I get the Page of Wands. So this is a good card. This is telling me that it's like this initiatory period where you're allowing yourself to play more. You're allowing yourself to be more creative. You're allowing yourself some kind of freedom with your expression when it comes to what you're actually doing. Just enjoying more playtime. I think of like Jupiter, Neptune in your 10th as, you know, take all of the paints and paint, you know, like really put everything out on the mural and take a look at it and what looks good and where are you being intuitively driven and feeling like you have passion. So it's about chasing passion. It can be passion projects which lead to a dream situation. I would say you, because you're a mutable sign and you're experiencing the squares to Pisces, it can also be a time where you're like, okay, an old job is dissolving. So like now I need to go and find my purpose. So that's another way it can manifest. If that's the case, then that's where you are. I do see this being a positive card and helping you stay inspired and really staying open and being creative with what you could do. Then we have Cancer and Cancer rising. So this is taking place in your 9th house. Neptune and Jupiter will align. It is a sister sign. So you are experiencing a trine. So it's more harmonious energy for you. One thing that I would say is that because this is taking place with your 9th and your 6th house lord, there seems to be something revolving around more of a connectedness between health and wellness. And, you know, health may be that 6th house routine, what I eat, you know, putting things away, you know, going and working out or eating well or whatever, and connecting it with 9th house values. So it can be learning how to actually have more mind-body balance, spirit balance. We're bringing in that 9th house of making something our prayer, right? So you might become religious about organizing, religious about traveling, religious about what you're eating. But you're going to learn more, I think, about the 6th house and how you can be of service, especially if you're involved in travel, teaching, or law, education or law. And I think with the conjunction, also, you know, making aspects to Uranus that's in your 11th house, it's telling me that you have the opportunity to like achieve your goals and travel as long as you're being of service or helping people or educating. You have the ability to, I think, have more adventure and a lot more changing in regards to some of your friendships. I think a lot of Cancers are going to see lots of shakeups in friendships from this aspect, and it's going to start kind of showing you guys more where you know, in order to maybe connect more to groups or institutions, you have to travel and you have to be willing to kind of hone in on your craft, or maybe doing some kind of training. So having to like, you know, travel and train and meeting with groups or joining a union, that could be something else that could kind of come up for you. But strength in numbers is one thing I would say. And scheduling stuff where you're kind of managing, you know, your schedule and bringing in travel, or, you know, because you have to refine your schedule, you can't travel as much. So it's scheduling things out more, maybe, perhaps. The card that I get for you is the Queen of Crystals. So this is a positive card. It's a very grounding card. And this card talks very specifically about really honing in on your gifts when it comes to embracing and receiving anything that deals with security or stability. So perhaps maybe that Uranus in the 11th is like, you know, the friend or the institution or the group that says, okay, you know, come and join us. We'll help you with training. We'll help you meet people and network. So that way you can really, you know, come more so into the type of work that you would like to do or that you would enjoy doing or that aligns with your beliefs in some way. I also feel like the Queen talks about health and financial wellness and feeling really good in your body. It can represent like a earth sign woman coming into your life who might be older or more mature, or she might be a mentor or somebody who can help you actually kind of get everything in order, whether it's your health, your finances, or where you're going with your career. Then we've got Leo and Leo rising. This is going to be taking place for you. Leo, Neptune, and Jupiter will align in your 8th house. So this is a very mystical, magical conjunction in the 8th house. It to me screams like spiritual awakening. It screams psychic insights. brushes with the other side and people or spirits on the other side. Sexual healing is something else that comes up for me as well. Now for you, Jupiter is the ruler of both your 5th and your 8th house, and it's meeting with Neptune. So what we have to take into consideration is the 5th house, which is sex, joy, dating, children, pregnancy. So it can be a very fertile energy for Leos. There can be a sense of wanting to express yourself more sexually, wanting more to kind of play a character when it comes to sex and exploring fantasies and film and all kinds of things in regards to that. And it can also, by the same token, represent this maybe like over partying or overdoing it, or losing ourselves in sex, or losing ourselves in addiction, and the effect that it has on us psychologically and how we psychologically deal with fear. Some of you guys may miraculously come into some money. You might like find out that there was like, you know, somebody who passed or died, and then you inherit something, and you didn't see it coming. It can also be somebody who's more prone to having issues with financial fraud. So you want to be checking those credit reports and keeping an eye on your bank accounts and making sure that you're just being really careful when it comes to transacting money, because there can be scams that can happen with this conjunction for you, Leo. But I think overall it's very sexual, very creative, and I think it's about expressing yourself in new ways. And it's all, you know, also possibly it's like bringing money and resources in from being authentic and being yourself, and creating or bringing something into the world that's very you. Now it's sextiling Uranus, that's in your 10th house of career. So perhaps maybe through changing, transforming, merging with someone, being more creative, you're coming into a new status in the world. You're expanding in your career, or maybe you're parenting. If you factor those 5th and 8th house together, it's like, oh, I do want to be a parent. Oh, I do want to, you know, partner with somebody. That can come up for you very much so. And the card that I get for you is, there we go, the 9 of crystals. So it's the 9 of coins. Getting what you want. You know, getting what you want, giving yourself what you deserve, really feeling into that, knowing your worth, reminding yourself of that. Sometimes it's indulging a little bit, and I would say, okay, that's fine with 9 of coins, but not too much, and really just keeping an eye on what overindulgence may materialize as. So now we've got Virgo and Virgo rising. So Virgo, this is going to be more difficult for you because you're a mutable sign. So Pisces, in theory, is a sign that is in friction with you. It is traditionally in your 7th house. So we see this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction happening in your 7th house of partnerships and relationships. Now, Jupiter traditionally rules both your 4th and your 7th house, meeting in the 7th. So some of you guys may experience a situation where it's ecstasy or agony in a relationship. You might meet somebody who is very spiritual, very creative, very much into film, photography, healing, anything connected to psychological stuff, you know, Pisces things. On the flip side, it can be somebody who is a little secretive. They can be a little dangerous. You can meet some bad boys and girls with this transit, people who might be involved in drugs or crime, people who may have mental or emotional issues or disorders, or they're a little wackadoodle. Virgo, you need to be more careful than most people, because you really need a method to ground your energy out and really be practicing not seeing people and for who you want them to be or what they could be. You know, be careful putting people on a pedestal. Be careful, because you're going to have rose-colored glasses on, and there can be people who come into your life where you're like, this is it, I've waited for this person, they're everything, and it could be something that falls flat or doesn't meet your expectations, or they don't stay very long and they ghost, or you meet somebody who's kind of in and out, or somebody that you don't know if you can trust. Because Jupiter rules the 4th, it can also represent, I guess the positive side is, if you've been living at a distance from a partner or abroad, you could finally decide on a place to move in together. It can materialize as kind of getting to this turning point where you're like, you know what, I know that we have to, you know, move together in order to broaden our relationship, and it can be very positive and beautiful through these transits as well. Those of you who are single can meet people who live overseas or who are culturally different or diverse. Maybe they live by water or they work with water in some way, so like fishermen or It could even be like marine biologists or people who are surfers or painters, photographers. It's not limited just to water in general. And you just need to be careful, especially when you're dealing with what might be like international matters, or really just making sure that you're sure about a relationship. Some of you guys are experiencing people from the past coming back because Jupiter represents the past, being the ruler of your fourth. Sometimes it's like you go back home and you run into that person who you were always in love with. Sometimes it is the person who calls you out of the blue, who you knew when you were a kid, or you run into them, or you see them on Facebook. So that's how that can work. It is currently making sextiles from your 7th to your 9th, and this is why I feel like topics of relationships that are abroad or international or culturally different are likely, or possibly dissolving marriages and separations. That could be another way that this materializes, and needing to talk to, 9th house people like lawyers or anybody who can help you legally with the process of separation. Or, dealing with passports and visas. That's another way that this can pan out. But the 7th house is marriage and the 9th house is ceremonies. And so I've definitely seen my fair share of Virgos and Virgo risings who are suddenly finding themselves in love, and for so many reasons relating to where they can and cannot live, or stuff in regards to home and family, and people like, moving from overseas or whatever. I've seen a lot of people being like, there's no way around this, we're going to get married. So yeah, that's just a little bit of food for thought for you, Virgo. It can definitely spark a lot relating to travel and culture with that 9th house sextile to Uranus and the North Node, excuse me. It's very interesting because I pulled 2 cards. The first card, they were together, was the 8 of Cups. And the 8 of Cups is traditionally a card that's about walking away, leaving something in the past, being done, saying goodbye, being done with it. But right behind it, I saw the 2 of Crystals, which is the 2 of Coins. So it may feel like a make or break situation for some people. It's like, we're going back and forth. What are we going to do? It can also be this feeling of like, oh, I'm weighing my options. Do I do this or do I that? Do I move? Do I not move? Do I take them back? And ultimately, I think that the 8 of Cups does seem to insinuate that there is this sense of moving on. Maybe there's a little bit of going back and forth, but ultimately moving on or moving, right? So if you're like, are we going to move in together? Are we going to do this? Yes, you're moving, or you're moving forward. But this is usually leaving something behind. So, weighing your options. I have the prospect of marriage. I have the prospect of a new business partner. I have the prospect of, being with the love of my life. But I got to give up my home. I got to give up my family. I got to give up, where I've been living, my friends. So there is some sense of needing to give something up, and whether or not you're really willing to walk away from somebody or not, and that you're a little indecisive. I think Venus at the end of the month is going to be really nice in that chart. You're going to have a better idea as you get closer to the end of May going into June, which end it's going to kind of land up on. For Libra rising, this is a conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in your 6th house of health, wellness, daily routine, coworkers, and pets. Bringing these 2 planets together, where you have Jupiter, which is the lord of both your natal 6th and your 3rd house. It makes me feel like you're focusing more on communicating and expressing yourself differently and more emotionally or empathically, perhaps making more of an effort to integrate communicating, writing, speaking, filming, media into your daily routine. Maybe there's a need to get on a new schedule, be reading books about health and wellness, spiritual awareness, things like that. Maybe you're trying to incorporate some kind of, you're listening to something, while you're exercising or working out. That could be something else that I see between the sextiles of the 3rd and the 6th house. Now, for you specifically, one thing that I would say be aware of is that this is sextiling your Uranus transit in your 8th house, actually the North Node as well, more so the North Node. And really what it's telling me is that you have the ability to really start with the mind to better release and deal with psychological triggers or fears or phobias. Perhaps you're learning more about making money through advertising, education, sales, courses, classes, something like that. There can be more of a need for you also just to focus more on residual income or money that's coming in, somehow connected to speaking or writing or something that you're doing regularly. So that could be another way that that plays out. Learning how to communicate your fears a little bit better too. I think the 6th house and the 3rd house Lord in aspect to the North Node in Taurus really tells me that it's like learning how to, you know, communicate better. So that way you're learning healthier habits all around. The card they get for you is the High Priestess. So this is talking about your vision, bringing everything inward, knowing when to sit and be open to receive, paying attention to your dreams and your intuitive hunches, and dealing with both sides of yourself, the shadow side and the lighter, more kind of conscious side, and learning how to integrate the two. This card comes up a lot, I think, when it's just like getting into the sequence of just knowing what does and doesn't feel right and following that and applying that regularly. Then we've got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. This is a sister sign, so you are experiencing trines, which is harmonious energy because of this transit. This is taking place on your 5th house or within your 5th house, and it's involving Jupiter and Neptune, which rule your natal 5th and your 2nd. So for starters, having Jupiter in this part of your chart does talk about more creativity, more love, more romance, more opportunities to date, connect with people, work on creative projects, really show your talents. Jupiter ruling your 2nd house can bring out your talents, and whether that's, you know, your painting, your drawing, your acting, something that does involve creativity and self-expression because it's in your 5th house. Some of you guys may be trying to pursue more creative pursuits as a means to making money. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more risky and following your intuition in investing money. That could be something else because the 5th house is always speculative. I think it's about feeling more in love and also more expressive and feeling inspired. Jupiter in this house can definitely have you really focused on children or pregnancy. That can be something that can happen. So being that it's in a feminine sign, especially if you are a Scorpio or Scorpio rising who's been trying to get pregnant, be mindful that some of the energies that are going through here with this conjunction is like you have to start envisioning that or envisioning that project before it comes to fruition. You're envisioning the child before the child is born, and the soul, calling the soul into something. It is making sextiles to Uranus in your 7th house and the North Node in your 7th house. So it's almost like love and romance can feel like you're on super blast. You can meet somebody very quickly and then come the spring be talking about, well, are we in love? Are we going to be together? I could see people falling in love or getting pregnant and merging and coming together very quickly. I also see lots of support in like creative endeavors or hobbies that can actually turn into a business, or where there is support from a partner or vice versa when it comes to making some of these things happen. Overall, I think, Scorpio, you're going to fare a little bit better during some of these transits. And I think that it can be a time where you just fall in love with something. You know what I'm saying? So the card that I got for you is, oh, interesting. Okay. Whoa, sorry. The, oh my goodness. Hello. The World. Like dropping all the cards. The World. This is a great card. This tells me that this is about everything coming together, full, like the big picture, and everything being connected, and you realizing that everything's connected and that everything happens for a reason. And maybe that certain people came into your life to help you facilitate certain goals, or be able to come to this moment where you're really able to create and express yourself most authentically. So like home is related to relationships, is related to joy, is related to career. They're all kind of connecting. And when this card comes up, it's the completion card. So it's saying like everything's, you know, kind of falling into place. And if everything makes sense, you might feel like actually, even though it's, you know, a little bit different, in some strange way, all the pieces are coming together for you. For Sag and Sag rising, this is going to be a little bit more difficult for you because this is a mutable energy. So you're experiencing a square similar to Virgo and Gemini. For you, the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is happening in your 4th house, which deals with your home, your family, your roots, and your inner personal world, maybe the past. So interesting. So you've got your ruler, Jupiter, coming into conjunction with Neptune. So on one hand, some of you guys are really learning that home is a place within yourself. It's not necessarily a physical space. So some of you guys are starting to dissolve old connections to home. You're selling homes. You're looking for more adventure. You're wanting to let things go and, you know, pack your bags and move to Europe. Other people are looking to make their home more zen or more like a temple, and they're integrating more faith, religious sculptures and an altar, or maybe like doing feng shui in the house. Maybe you're looking to bring more of a water element into your house, and you just want to feel like it's a place that is like your like little retreat center. With the first and the fourth house lord together, it tells me that you're reflecting a lot on the past, what you want to let go of, what family issues or emotional issues you let go of. Some of you guys will say goodbye to loved ones or say goodbye to places that you used to call home. I think it's also about like really profound moments for healing within yourself privately, but also within the family, because it's making sextiles to the North Node in Taurus in your 6th house of work. So it can also be this feeling that, you know, you're overwhelmed with the amount of things that you need to do at home because you're so busy at work, or where your emotions are affecting your physical health and your daily routine. So for some of you, like that Jupiter Neptune can be like, I'm gonna, be productive, and I have a goal in mind for how I want my daily routine to go, what I'm gonna do, and I'm rearranging the house in a way that's more efficient. It makes me feel good, or I'm changing the colors, or I'm, incorporating feng shui. I would really encourage that for Sag risings. Just so the energy is more in flow and you feel like, you can just get more done around the house. Some of you guys may benefit from bringing somebody in to do a clearing in the house energetically, or maybe even redesigning or restyling things, hiring people to come and help you work on home jobs. You may have plumbing issues. That's the one thing that I'll tell you. Definitely can be some plumbing issues and some pipes that are breaking, or needing to rearrange lines and stuff that deal with gas or deal with plumbing. So you want to watch for like leaks and stuff, because that can definitely happen. But with the sextiles to the 6th, it's people who can come in and clean your house, organize your home, help you with your emotions, help you with your diet, help you with your routine, so you're not feeling like you're off center because your emotions are out of whack. But a lot of this is actually going to start with finding more peace within the home there. And the card that I get is the Hierophant. So I definitely think it's a person. Some of you guys may be like, saying to yourself, because it is, it does deal with this, the 6th house. You might be saying to yourself, like, do I need to learn a new technique? Do I need to get certified? Do I need to go and train somebody? How to help other people? That could be another way that this plays out. Do I need to go and find like a mentor or a coach or a guru, or a healer? I mean, there's that. The Hierophant's all about going and getting support, and somebody who is going to kind of talk to you about the way to go and the direction, and maybe they have experience. So it can be somebody who is in the same line of work as you, or somebody who's gone through some of the same trauma or the same family issues or whatever. And you talk to them and it's just like, wow, all the pieces kind of come together, so that's really positive for you, Sag. For Capricorn and Capricorn rising, we have got Jupiter and Neptune coming into conjunction in your 3rd house, which is about writing, speech, driving, short distances, siblings, just communication in general. One thing I'll tell you is just watch out with your electronics and water, okay? Like your cell phones, your tablets, your laptops, anything that has screens that could get wet, you're more prone to that. You really want to make sure that your car is like up with weatherproof. Make sure it's got windshield wipers. Make sure that you have tread on your tires. These are basic things, but especially if you're in a place where it rains a lot, or let's say, you're prone to kind of spilling things. Maybe make sure that you have like a cup holder with a cover in your car. Maybe you put like a water safe case on one of your cell phones, something like that. Because I could see this getting a little hairy for some Capricorns. The conjunction is happening in your 3rd, and it involves your 12th and your 3rd house ruler. So this is why I said screens. But also I think that a lot of Capricorns are going to be integrating more like meditation and reflection and journaling into their daily routine as a means for kind of balancing out their mental, emotional health. Learning how to communicate differently. Some of you guys may benefit from learning a new language or learning more terms or just better ways of being able to express yourself. I think the beauty of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is we're all going to be learning, you know, a whole new vocabulary when it comes to like mental health terms and spiritual terms and awareness, and all of this stuff is going to start popping up. So you may benefit from like working with somebody or doing a self-help book or listening or reading something that's just helping you express yourself better and learning to be more emotional and compassionate with yourself, you know, with yourself. And meditation and reflection can really help. It is sextiling the North Node and Uranus in your 5th house. So this tells me that it's helping you like communicate better with your children, communicate better with your inner child, be writing and talking about your experiences as a child, being more creative and imaginative. You know, if you're a writer, this can be a wonderful transit. You might feel more inspired. You might feel like you need to be reading books and bringing things in that are almost acting as like a muse for you, because you might just start streamlining and downloading stuff. Equally, if you're having aspects to your Mercury, you can have that as well. But maybe it's how you communicate and express to children, or how you're learning how to open up and learn new exercises to just create differently and move through life differently. I think that it's going to help you communicate and talk to people more. So you might be meeting people, dating new people, going in and out of town with like a romantic partner. Maybe you have a couple people you're talking to. Maybe you're trying an online dating app because of the sextile to the North Node in your 5th. And the card that I got for you, Capricorn, is the King of Cups. I have to say I'm quite pleased, almost relieved to see this card, because I feel like this is like it, baby. Like this is it. You guys have really had quite a few planetary energies in your sign the last couple months. It's been heavy. And I think this is like this breakthrough where you have a good cry, you can express yourself, you can be vulnerable, you can share your feelings, you can allow yourself to just open up and let go. And if that means, you know, just finally telling somebody how you feel, or just being more okay with showing emotions and being vulnerable, this is telling me that you're going to have the ability to master it. It can be about a water sign man coming into your life as well. So it can be a Pisces or a Scorpio or a Cancer. In the 3rd house with a sextile makes me wonder if you're like talking to somebody more like this and you're just feeling that you're more open with them. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this is a conjunction of Jupiter and Neptune in your natal 2nd house of resources, money. So it can be a little sweet bonus for you, Aquarius, that kind of comes in. What's interesting is that it is tying together your 2nd and your 11th house Lord. So perhaps maybe you're reaping the benefits of, you know, working or collaborating with friends. Some of your professional or financial goals are really coming online and they're coming together. I have a feeling that it can be about you celebrating with friends, some kind of accomplishment or something of that nature. It is also sextiling Uranus that is in your 4th house and the North Node in your 4th house. It makes me feel like your goal may suddenly be to have your own piece of land, to suddenly buy a house, to have something that is yours that you can hold on to. I could see where maybe you're learning more about cooking or more like culinary skills. That's definitely possible with the conjunction in your 2nd house, making aspects to your 4th, or maybe just a sudden change of residency or land, or you know, finding that you're more open to like moving to a place that's foreign to you. Oh, so the card that I get is the 8 of Wands. So energy moving very quickly. It might be that you're like, you have an opportunity to jump on something and buy something, purchase something, move somewhere, change the energies. The energies are shifting very quickly for you. I feel like it's about you coming into your personal power and feeling very secure in yourself and learning to let go of anything in terms of like materialism that really isn't bringing you security. But this is a positive card. It does say that things are moving quickly and it does look very positive and optimistic. Last but not least, we have Pisces and Pisces rising. Pisces, how are you doing with this energy? This conjunction is happening in your sign. So if you're Pisces rising, it's in your 1st house. And it is joining with the 10th house Lord. So Jupiter rules your career. So for this conjunction to be happening in your 1st house, you are really hopeful and optimistic and really needing to maintain the belief in where your life is going. You want to hold the vision for where you're going to be living, what your life is going to look like, what you're coming into, and staying positive if at all possible. Now, you also want to watch out for being entirely overly optimistic and just blind, enthusiasm, and like there needs to be a sense of grounding it out. Which is nice because it's going to sextile the North Node in your third house, which is Taurus. So it's telling me that there's a lot of like, oh, I believe this is going to happen. Write it down. Make it practical. Do it regularly. Repeat it. Learn it. Integrate it. Do it regularly. There is a need for you to really show up when it comes to putting yourself in the spotlight or really kind of showing your natural talents. Through speaking out, writing, talking to people, teaching something, or just opening up your channels of communication more, or maybe your social media. It's going to give you the opportunity to get a lot more expansion and a lot more visibility, right? So to have that kind of sitting on your ascendant, your energy levels are going to feel lower. You're going to be more emotional and empathic than usual. You absorb more. So you really got to focus on those soaks and those scrubs and stuff, and just really being aware of your energy and practicing grounding so you're in your body. And you're going through the Jupiter-Neptune process of allowing an old version of yourself to dissolve and holding space for what you're coming into. So it's more important for you to have a regular practice. With the sextile to the North Node in your third house, I would say that walking, putting your feet on the ground, gardening, doing something involving the earth in your hands, or holding crystals, this can be helpful. I mean, I'm not somebody who's going to tell you that crystals are going to solve everything, but just making sure that you're in your body. Be very careful when you're driving too, because there can be a lot of daydreaming, not paying attention, dozing off. So it's really important that when you're moving in general, that you are just in your body. Okay, please, please, please. The card that I get is Temperance, which can sometimes be about sobriety, sobering experiences, sobering awareness, sobering up, finding balance, allowing the pieces to come together as they may. One thing I love about Pisces energy is that there can be this sense of being like, I'll know when it's the right time. It'll just wash over me. I'll be like, okay, ding, time to go. Or I have a feeling that I should do it tonight or tomorrow. Temperance is reminding you that timing is everything, that there is a sense of certain things needing to come together at the right time, kind of like a crock pot energy. So with this card, I would just say be mindful that there is a need to slow down, feel into things, double check things, and really make sure that you are doing things in and around the right time. Now, this conjunction is going to affect everybody. So even if you're not a Pisces, or if you're not a Taurus, or whatever, or Jupiter-based chart or whatever, you're still going to feel this. Everybody's going to feel this. The 23, 24 degrees is going to affect us globally. Now, it's going to be best for those who are between 20 and 26 degrees of the water signs. So if you are a Cancer or a Pisces or a Scorpio, you are going to be experiencing trines, harmonious energy. It may catch you off guard. It may be things that happen very suddenly, but once again, it's emotional. So it's kind of like divine, dreamy, inspirational, more open, more aware. For 20 to 26 degrees of the earth sign, some of you guys will be experiencing sextiles. So it can be inspiring, creative, helpful. But once again, with sextiles, you have to actually do the work. And I'll get into this in a second. I'll explain it for everybody, because everybody's experiencing the sextile. But if you happen to be an earth sign, some of you guys are, and earth and water together, you can actually form things and make things happen. This will be most difficult for 20 to 26 degrees of the mutable signs. So if you are a Gemini, a Sag, or a Virgo, this is going to be a little bit more difficult for you. The square will materialize as you being frustrated, foggy, seeing things dissolve, changing, letting go, misunderstandings, or a loss of faith. The square energy is sometimes going to bring about conflict, but in the mutable signs, it's about changing our belief system, changing what we see, what we know to be true, and keeping some things and letting some things go. And it will also be difficult for 20 to 26 degrees of Pisces, sun, moon, or rising, because you're experiencing this conjunction. And I would say conjunctions can go either way, whether it's on a personal planet or just in the skies. We've talked about how this can play out positively or negatively, but if you happen to have a sun, moon, or rising, or a planet between 20 to 26 degrees of Pisces, be more mindful that Neptune and Jupiter are there. You want to look at what houses those two planets rule. So go and look at your chart and look at Pisces and also look at Sag. And if it's aligning on your sun, it might relate more to your energy, your vitality, your ego. So there can be like an ego death. If it's your rising, it can be changing and becoming more kind of alluring and things about your appearance and being more tapped in and psychic, but a little bit more run down, or dealing with fear or phobias, isolation. And then if it is your moon, it can cause some emotional havoc. There can be lots of waterworks. There can be a sense of flooding in the home, losing the home, not knowing where the home is, dealing with fear, paranoia. But it can also be a real psychic awakening. So obviously this is more general. If any of these points are getting hit in your chart, definitely it's a good time to possibly consider getting a reading. Remember that conjunctions, like I said, can go either way. And because this isn't a water sign, it is more emotional. It's harder to see. So it can be energetic, emotional, intuitive, but it can also creep up on you very quickly. Now, keep in mind when you're looking at these aspects in your chart that Pisces is inspiring or dissolving your vision. And it is funneling into, with the sextile to the North Node in Taurus, to help you build into the future. So Pisces is divine, emotional, intuitive. Taurus wants comfort, groundedness, peace, beauty, and security. And Uranus is there showing us where help from Jupiter, we can quickly shift into our beliefs. We can quickly shift our beliefs into physical change. So those sandcastles in the sky, guys, that's what we're building right now. And finding that groundedness can be difficult. We can get overwhelmed. We can get scared. We can get kind of all up in our heads, and really how we choose to channel this energy over the next couple of weeks can be a make or break time for coming into, I think, just a more stable, secure life. But it's what are we willing to let go of, or what are we willing to believe in order to bring that into reality? So with that, I will say thank you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. This was definitely a much longer video than usual, but I know that quite a few people can benefit from some of the information. Let me know, where is this conjunction happening in your chart? Is it playing on any of your personal planets in your natal horoscope? Are you already starting to see the archetypal themes of Jupiter and Neptune? Do you feel like they speak to you too? Are you feeling this energy as well? If you want to learn astrology with me, check out my links below. I have got a few spots left on Sunday, April 3rd. We're going to start my Beginner's Astrology one-on-one course. It's going to be live, 7 courses, and probably God knows how many hours of instruction. I'm going to teach you guys how to do astrology from the ground up and how to make astrology work for you. So if you want to learn with me, join my class. If you'd like a reading, check out my website below at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I have full and half-hour sessions, as well as all different other kinds of types of readings where I incorporate tarot, astrology, and clairvoyant visions into my work. I'm excited to see what you guys have to say with this video, because like I said, it's a little bit more different than what we usually do. May the force be with all of you, and I encourage you to pray and hold space for not just yourself, for the world, for peace, for vibrations to lift, for consciousness to rise, so that way we can all start to kind of create the life that we would like. Please try to remind yourself of that when world events come about and you start spinning out. It's not always what you see, right? Neptune teaches us not everything is what it seems. So if you don't like what you're seeing, turn off the TV, turn off the radio, turn off YouTube, turn on music, and get back into your bodies and your connection with your higher self. All right, guys, I will see all of you very soon. Take care, enjoy the next couple of weeks, and I'll be back at it with another video, working on the eclipse video for later this week. So take care.